Good afternoon to everyone. Hi, I'm Angela Mary Thomas. I am the project coordinator of APOLO project, and we from the APOLO project are starting our first stakeholder workshop, which is mostly focusing on novel technologies for maritime power conversion. So I welcome everyone to this amazing workshop. Thanks to 1Q for the whole organization of this workshop, and it's great having you here, both offline and online. So a brief introduction about what the workshop will be today. So we'll have first the talk of Carsten from Flotte Hamburg. Thank you, Carsten, for accepting our invite. And then we talk about the urban fleet from green to zero emissions. And then we have Professor Nicole, who would be who is representing APOLO project from NEC, GRAS, and she will be talking about the role of large engines and renewable fuels in future maritime applications. And then we have Professor Tingu from, sorry, I'm just speaking this wrongly, Lapinranta University of Technology from MARPOWER project. So he will be talking about designs for hydrogen fueled gas turbines for marine applications. Then we'll be shortly having a break for 20 minutes. Then after that, we have Ajoy Ramalingam here in person, who will be talking about the metrology for green maritime shipping. And after that, we have Cesar Escobar from CTC Spain, from ELECTROMET project, and he will be talking about the direct CO2 electro reduction to renewable methane. And then we have one more speaker from APOLO project, from H2 side, Marcos, who will be speaking on leveraging ammonia cracking solutions to decarbonize the maritime industry. And then finally, we have a speaker from GREENMARINE project, Harsha, from Blue Expert, and he will be addressing the topic of potential of retrofitting and decarbonization technologies on board a marine vessel. And then finally, we'll have a quick roundtable and a closure for this workshop. And then for the in-person attendees, we'll have a meet and greet, and then fully a boat tour as well. So thank you, everyone, for accepting our invitation to give a talk on your respective fields, mainly concentrating on novel technologies for the maritime power conversion. So as a quick introduction, let me give a brief overview of what APOLO project is. So APOLO project is advanced power conversion technologies based on onboard ammonia cracking through novel membrane reactors. So here is a quick project overview. As I said, I'm Angela Mary Thomas, the coordinator of this project, and Technalia, a research institute based in Spain. And we have 14 partners working on this project. You can see a wide range of partners from ammonia producers till fuel cell partners. And Chalmers, also a university which will be heading the LCA part as well. So it is a grant project, and we are excited to have our first results soon. And it's almost midway through the project, so we will be stay tuned for our project updates. So what was the motivation for our project? EU started with our EU priorities from 2019 to 2024, because this project started in 2024. So this was our priority at that time. Obviously, it has changed a little bit, but still the priorities almost remain the same. So first, the whole driving force is our European Green Deal, making the EU climate neutral by 2050. Then we brought in the Fit for 55 package to cut the greenhouse gas emissions by 55% by 2030, fast approaching. And then we also had this fuel EU maritime in March 2023, which required the onboard use of use of energy to reduce the GHG intensity of it. So basically, this has been our driving force for writing this project. And at EU level, we know that the maritime represents around 3 to 4% of total EU's CO2 emissions. So, as I said, there was this clear drive from the European Commission to reduce this GHG intensity. And that's exactly why the shipping investment grew in alternate fuels, mainly in two. One is methanol and another is ammonia. And APOLO project will be mostly focusing on ammonia. So, as I said, APOLO project targets the full decarbonization of the maritime sector, mainly focusing on power conversion. Here, we have two prototypes working. We have prototype 1, where we have a catalytic membrane reactor, which produces hydrogen from ammonia. And this hydrogen is then act as a feed for the fuel cell, which is running on pure hydrogen. So this catalytic membrane reactor actually produces that high purity hydrogen. And also we have another prototype where the membrane reactor will produce hydrogen again. And this hydrogen will be blended with ammonia so that we can run a novel ammonia engine. And we call this a prototype 2. Along with that, definitely we will be focusing on developing a full LCA, LCC, SLCA, and health and safety analysis of all the technologies developed in the APOLO project. And also we have partners working on proposing safety regulations for onboard ammonia use as a fuel. Also, we need to find the way to exploit these key exploitable results, which I showed you, like two prototypes, how we can take the technologies developed in the APOLO project into a fully functioning technology for maritime power conversion. And obviously, this we would also need to promote the dissemination and communication of all results and expand its effect. So, as I previously said, we have 13 consortium partners from all over Europe, and we have a very high industrial participation. So, from Spain, we have 5 partners, and we have partners from Sweden, Norway, Netherlands, UK, Austria, and Italy. As I said again, our first the key exploitable results, the prototype 1, is to have an advanced power conversion system based on the combination of a high purity ammonia cracker. With ammonia cracker, it means basically a membrane reactor. So we have membranes, we have catalysts, and we have sorbents to produce this high purity hydrogen. And this catalyst, we will be focusing on producing environmentally friendly catalyst material. And the membranes would be innovative palladium membranes, which would be extremely selective for hydrogen. And we have novel sorbents and the whole balance of plant of the PEM fuel cells when it's coupled to the ammonia cracker. And the value proposition for this prototype is that we need to have this power conversion system based on combination of ammonia cracker and a high efficiency PEM fuel cell with an overall efficiency of 51 to 54%. And of course, the main end user will be the ship owners and the operators. And then we have the second which is a low purity ammonia cracker, which is 98% of hydrogen from this membrane reactor, which will be blended with ammonia, and there will be a high efficiency four-stroke engine. And this is prototype 2. Again, we have novel catalyst material for the cracking and innovative palladium membranes for the membrane reactor. And we would be assembling low purity CMR with these membranes and the catalyst. And also we have an advanced ammonia combustion engine which will be coupled with the catalytic converter. So the overall value proposition is that we produce this combination of cracker and a high efficiency engine with an overall efficiency of we are aiming at 45%. Again, the main end user is ship owners or operators. So as I previously said, I'll quickly go through what are catalytic membrane reactors. As you can hear this, we have a catalyst which would convert ammonia into nitrogen and hydrogen. Membranes which would selectively separate the hydrogen from the product so that there will be an accelerated conversion of ammonia into hydrogen, nitrogen and hydrogen. So it drives the reaction kinetically. And then we have a sorbent for prototype 1, mainly because that we'll be using it for fuel cell, and we might need a little bit higher purity than what we would get in the coming out of membrane reactors. So we will be developing a sorbent as well for it. And then we have 2 fuel cells from 2 different partners. And then we have an internal combustion engine and also a catalytic reduction system for the exhaust gases. Partners, we have 13 partners working on each prototype and each phases of this project. And this is how we are planning to have this project executed. So we already developed materials and selected materials for the prototype, each prototype. And now we are in the process of constructing these prototypes and assembling them in the final validation site. And project management wise, we have seven different work packages, each focusing on developing a business case and developing the key components, as well as determining the environmental impact of these alternate fuel system, and of course the project management. So we are now at month 30 of the project. So as I said, we are assembling all the key components now, and we are on the way to the validation site so that we can have the final validation. And in this project by month 48. Just that the expected outcome is to tackle the challenges of power conversion and fully decarbonize the maritime, aim to fully decarbonize the maritime sector. And this project has a full value chain from the ammonia synthesis to shipbuilder, going through all key component manufacturers and reinforce the energy independence of Europe. The technologies developed in this project are mainly modular and easily scalable. So we are working on prototypes with the power output of 125 kilowatt, but these can be easily scalable up to megawatt scale. And of course, we also focus a lot on developing a life cycle analysis and also life cycle costing and social life cycle analysis for this project, so that we can aim to suggest amendments on EU and IMO regulations for the use of ammonia for power conversion system, and also an HSC health and safety analysis inspired by HACCP and HACCP to do a preliminary safety engineering for the use of ammonia on board. And we'll also have a techno-economic analysis just to understand what is the cost of investment, operation, maintenance, and end-of-life disposal. So basically, that's the project for you. We are a RIA. We go up to TRL5. And SINEA from European Commission is funding us, and we started 2024 in January. And as I said, it's in month 30 now, and we have this is a 4-year project, so it will end in December 2027. So that's it, everyone. Thank you for your attention. A very quick recap of what APOLO project is. If you have any questions, I think we can take it during the roundtable, because I think I have exceeded the time. So let's go on and start our first presentations for the workshop. So it will be Carsten from Hamburg, who would be talking to us about the urban fleet from green to zero emissions. Carsten.
Okay, thank you, Angela. I hope the sound works well for my place. I'll try to share my presentation. By the way, the weather is about 35 degrees here in Hamburg.
Yes.
But it's not so bad here in our room, and so the sundowner event this evening will fit with the weather, I think. So I think this works now. Okay. Yes, I'm Carsten. I'm from Hamburg Port Authority and Flotte Hamburg, so to say, the host today, because we are in the headquarters of Hamburg Port Authority today. I'm a civil engineer. I'm working for the Port of Hamburg since 2009, some years now. I'm CEO of the daughter company, Flotte Hamburg, and I'm also responsible for crisis management and security for the whole Hamburg Port Authority. So I'm fortunately able to talk about the Port of Hamburg itself, the Hamburg Port Authority, and of course the Flotte Hamburg and the way how we try to make this fleet green. So you will hear something about the whole port. It's less technical presentation, but maybe it's interesting for you. It's certainly interesting for you to learn how the Hamburg Port Authority is organized. You can see here in the picture our headquarters, which is located in the historic Speicherstadt, and you see the Elbphilharmonie in the background. And this is going to be actually one of the last meetings in this building today, as we are moving into a brand new building a few hundred meters away from here. And I'm a bit upset, but this is how time goes. So let me give you a short overview about organizational structure of the Hamburg Port Authority. And this shows or reflects our diverse responsibilities. About 2,000 people are working for the Port Authority here. Our CEO is Jens Meyer. Some of you think will know him. He is also president of the International Association of Ports and Harbors worldwide. Our legal form is public law institution, but we also have responsibilities as an authority. But important is that the majority of our company is organized like a business company. We distinguish between public sector and commercial sector, and which is a bit unique here in Hamburg. The commercial sector must earn its own money and achieve positive operating results. And the incomes are, for example, fees from ships or from the railway companies. And the public sector carries our tasks for the city, like construction, operation of infrastructure like roads and bridges, and dredging, surveying, and this sector supported by the city. And as I mentioned, we have several subsidiaries. For example, the Cruise Gate company here, which operates our 3 cruise terminals here in Hamburg, and my company, the Flotte Hamburg. I'll say a few words about it later. We have in Hamburg the so-called landlord concept, like most of the ports in the world. This means that the Port Authority is, in a sense, the owner of the port. We own the land, the water areas, and the quaywards. We are also responsible for the whole infrastructure, for example, bridges, roads, port railway, and so on. The companies in the port areas which do business here rent areas and sometimes buildings from us, and they build their own superstructure like warehouses, cranes, and so on. A lot of the contracts are made for 99 years or so. So the main duties of the Port Authority is port planning, port development, the expansion and maintenance of our infrastructure. We operate the port railway infrastructure, the port waters, and so on. We do traffic management, property and land management, And as I mentioned, statutory duties are also there for us. We are responsible for the safe operational desk of the seaways. We ensure the safety of navigation and so on, and flood protection is a big item here in Hamburg. But what is important for us is to do this port management innovative, efficient, and sustainable as possible. So let's come to the port of Hamburg itself. I like this picture. It shows just, I think, a quarter of the whole port area, but it shows the most important parts with, I think, the laser pointer here. Yes, with our four big container terminals, which are here, and here. And you see the city center area here, only a few meters away. I will come to this point in a few minutes. And what important is that the Port of Hamburg is no longer one of the largest ports in the world. For decades, we were among the top 10, but it's not the case anymore. And this is exactly what we are preparing for. Our strategy is not based on poor growth and size, like counting containers and so on. If you see the area here, you see that further growth and size is hardly possible for us. And we believe it's better to become one of the most innovative and sustainable ports with very high quality. And we believe that this will secure our business and remain attractive for our customers. So let's come to some key facts. Port of Hamburg is at the moment the third largest port in Europe after Rotterdam and Antwerp. At the moment, we are number 18 all over the world. This changes every few months if there's another new port in China, for example, but at the moment we are number 18. With about 7,000 hectares, our port takes up nearly 10% of the whole Hamburg city area. And we have berths for nearly 300 seagoing vessels and about 9,000 ships calls a year. And the largest ships of the world can call our port. Those of you who will join the boat tour this evening will see the largest container vessels in the world. It's always common that some of them are here in our port. We are more and more important cruise locations with about 300 cruise ships, of course, all over. And a special feature here for our port is the large railway network. We are the largest railway port in Europe, and the modal split for rail is over 50%, which is extremely high value. Unfortunately, the turnover stagnated for several years, and the challenge now for us is to regain the markets. This is crucial because being successful in the market has enormous economic importance for Germany and Hamburg. Over 100,000 people work in the port itself, and over 600,000 jobs throughout Germany depend on the port. And as you can see here on the numbers, the added value and the tax revenues are enormous for Hamburg and for Germany. Which is very special is the location of our port, the geographical location. As you can see here on the map, the port is not like most other ports located on the coast, but about 100 kilometers inland. Fun fact, the furthest point from the sea in Great Britain and Ireland is always less than this. And we are an open tide port, so we have 4 meters between low tide and high tide here in the port area. Even we are 100 kilometers away from the open sea. But above this, our port is located in the middle of the city, and this is most important. You see the grayed out area here. And for this reason, in addition to climate protection, especially reduction of local air pollutions like NOx, particulate matters, and so on, there's a crucial role here in the public discussions. I think in the last 15, 20 years, the whole public discussion in Hamburg has been about air pollution. And it's obvious because the prevailing wind direction leads the harmful pollutants constantly from the port to the city area, and a lot of rich people are living here. But honestly, in the meantime, the discussion changed, and even in Hamburg, the reduction of greenhouse gases is one of the most important issues, like everywhere else, of course. But it doesn't matter whether we focus on air pollution or on greenhouse gases. In any case, the use of modern technology to reduce the emissions is without any alternative for us. Yeah, the picture shows a bit of special situation. You can see the 4 container terminals showed in the other picture, and you can see here in the background the city area right on the other side of the river Elbe. If we focus on greenhouse gases, the amount of the port is honestly not that big. Of the 16 million tons of CO2 per year in Hamburg, only around 4 million tons come from the port. And if you keep in mind that the port is also an industrial area, so 80% of the port's emissions come from industry. At the end, there's only a small proportion of CO2 emissions that result directly from our operation here in the port area. It's therefore important to understand the role of the port. It's less about avoiding huge amounts of emissions and more about being a good example. For the reasons I mentioned, for the whole points and the climate change and so on, and the global supply chains, we equipped the 2040 development plan. And as I have already told you, we are not only focusing on growth. We believe that we can strengthen our market position by offering high quality, being sustainable, creating real added value for our customers. And so this plan exists for a few years now, but now okay. So we had 2 mics on here just for a moment, but I think it will work. We have recently updated this plan, and this plan reflects exact the strategy of the port until 2040. And just to mention, there are 7 key action areas, and most important are fully connected port with digital twins, with the different digital control centers, which particularly already exist. CO2 neutral operation through traffic optimization, renewable energies. Our target here in Hamburg is 2040 to get zero emission. So a bit earlier than the whole European Union. That's a decision of the people in Hamburg to be zero emission in 2040. There was a survey a few months ago, and they decided to get faster and to reach the goals in 2040. We want to be an attractive working environment through new ways of working, further training, innovative culture, and so on. And the Port of Hamburg shall become an international model for intelligent port. It still is not an option, so this is our plan, and it's not just a plan. There's actually a lot of action. Could talk about a lot of examples. I won't do it, just an example for the Hamburg, but there's a lot electrification here in the Port of Hamburg. We have a big onshore power supply for all of the cruise vessels, and for most of the container vessels. We deal with green molecules. It will be possible to bunker every innovative fuel here in the port area. And digitalization is a big topic for us. You will get my presentation later on, and there's a lot of backup. I won't be able to show now, but if you're interested in, you can see our robotic dog, which does AI inspection inside the bridge here in the background and so on. The slides are in this presentation, and you will get it. So what I'm going to tell is our innovative ship fleet management, and how we try to make this ship management or this ship theme. It's about the Flotte Hamburg, which is actually the company where I am responsible. This company was founded 9 years ago in 2017, and we are, so to speak, a startup company. But of course, we look back over hundreds of years of tradition, because obviously there has always been public ships in the port area of Hamburg, but they wasn't under one flag. And in Hamburg, as most, or nearly in all other ports of the world, it was always common for any authority or public company to have their own ships. And when Hamburg realized a few years ago that the fleet of firefighting vessels had to be renewed, they considered a new structure. And therefore, all existing ships of the city of Hamburg, except that of the passenger ferries, were transferred to the newly founded Hamburg fleet. And obviously, it makes sense for everyone to do what they do best. And this is exactly our model. The fire department, for example, does firefighting work, police does police duties, and so on. And our core business is to take care of the construction, maintenance, bunkering, tendering of ships. And we also provide crews when needed. And so now our customers no longer have to worry about ships, because they get them from us, right? How they need them. Our service is paid according predefined charter rates, and a big advantage for the customers is that they can access a much larger pool of ships than before. And by using ships multifunctionally, we create synergies, lower costs. And for example, the police boats can also be used as pilot boats here in Hamburg. Our multifunctional firefighting vessels can also be used for bridge inspection and so on. But one of the most important advantages is the unified strategy of the fleet. So, for example, we are able to implement a unified eco-friendly strategy for the whole city, for the whole ships of the city, which wasn't possible in the past, which is not possible in other ports. This slide, I would like to give you an overview about the ships we are talking about. Our fleet consists of 44 ships at the moment and 40 barges. As you can see, these are all smaller ships. They can operate across the entire port of Hamburg. Our biggest ship is here, the big firefighting vessel, which is about 45 meters long. And it's one of the most performant firefighting vessels worldwide. The fleet contains classic authority vessels, all the workboats needed to operate a large seaport. In addition, the boats of the water police, firefighting vessels, as we said. We operate the ship of the harbor master. Our staff is responsible 24/7 to take the pilots to and from the seagoing vessels. So we have 5 pilot boats. Further, we are part of the death maintenance of the port. We are operating all the surveying vessels here, which are 5 at the moment. We have a big own dredger and a bed leveler. And some of our boats can be used as icebreakers in winter, which we actually did this winter for 4 weeks, which was very special, because the last time when it happened was, I think, in 2012, and only for 3 days. So this is what we are talking about, which is unique. For example, we standardize all our boats, all our components, and we believe that that these ships fulfill the most of the requests of our customers. It's not necessary to buy or design special ships for every customer, so we try to build or buy ships from the stock. And for this reason, we are able to pool our ships, and we do the same amount of jobs with a reduced fleet. Every customer, as I said, can rent every boat of the fleet, and we always try to optimize our fleet and make it as much efficient as possible. Another advantage is that our customers don't have to finance their boats anymore. We finance the boats with credits from the capital market, and our customers only pay our service by charter rates. Customers are highly satisfied. And one of our major targets, we ensure sustainable ship operating with a unified strategy for all ships and help our customers in the Port of Hamburg to reach the climate goals. So we are even some kind of know-how center for climate-friendly or eco-friendly ship operating. So how did we try? Have we been trying to make this fleet green? What you see here is our first eco-friendly strategy with 5 pillars. We started this strategy with the start of the company 9 years ago, and for example, it's about innovator. The first pillar is about innovative fuels. When I started here in the company, all of the ships ran with marine gas oil, truck diesel, and we switched all of the ships step by step to innovative fuels. So at the moment, all of our ships are operated with GTL, gas to liquid fuel, which has less pollutions, of course. It's no effect on CO2, but it's good for the air pollution. So every ship runs with synthetic fuels, with GTL, and since last year, 4 our ships run with HVO, which is climate neutral. We deal a lot with catalysts and particulate filters. All of the new buildings were Euro 5 filters and catalysts, even when it was not mandatory, and we retrofitted a lot of our ships with exhaust gas treatment. We believe that we should be a test bed for innovative drive technologies. You can see here some studies of our fuel cell ship, and this is the reason why we are part of the whole community, why we met the guys from LAC in class. So we are working for the same targets to make shipping sustainable. And last pillar here is training of the crews in the energy efficient driving, which has a lot of. I think it's boring for the crews, but it's a lot of effect to run slower. The results of the 5 years you can see here. We had the red line marks the founding of the fleet, and you can see we have good results in decreasing the local air pollution like SOx, NOx, and particulates matter. And that's not the end of the road. It will go to 0, I think it's possible. But it's even obvious if you look here, we didn't have any impact in reducing CO2 emissions in the first years. And this is okay for us because we focused on local air pollution, but in the future, of course, we have to concentrate on greenhouse gases. And this is the reason why we developed our 5-pillar strategy to our new zero emission strategy with some partners. Our target was to find practicable solutions without rocket science. So honestly, this is the reason why we don't use fuel cells for our ships, because we are saying these are working boats which has to work under rough conditions, and so we try to use simple technologies. An additional focus was to find out how the prices for our customers will increase by going zero emissions. And the result was this strategy, which also includes the most part of the old strategy, because local air pollution is still a big topic for us, as I said. In short, we believe the more for us, only for us here in the port area, the more electric, the better. Especially in the port area where it's always possible to charge batteries, electric drive is the most efficient way. We think you can clearly recognize the strategy in our new shipbuildings. Most of them can operate electrically for 2 hours. The next generation of plug-in hybrid ships will be able to operate 4 hours. And at the moment, we are building 3 fully electric ships. They are under construction. Of course, we have a lot of ships, existing ships with combustion engines, and some of our tugs need high power engines. And in this case, we are going to use zero emission fuels. As I said, hydrotreated vegetable oil, HVO, is already used in 4 ships at the moment, and we are going to roll it out for more ships this year. Of course, we know about the disadvantages of food-based fuels, so we hope to get power to liquid fuels, which are based on green hydrogen in the future. At the moment, it's not possible for us to get it. We would be able to pay high prices just to test it, but it's at the moment it's not available here in the pot. Regarding to the cost, we believe that the whole story will only increase a little bit more the prices than the inflation for our customers, and we think they will accept this. Especially when you consider that the cost for fossil fuels will increase in the future rapidly too. I hope so. I think that's one of my last charts. Just a look about our current new builds. It's not a new build since we founded the fleet. The first was the big firefighting vessel, which has all combustion engines. Then we had these, you can see it here, these multifunctional plug-in hybrid firefighting vessels. They are able to operate 2 hours. We have the bed leveler, which is also plug-in hybrid. 3 police boats were built and are in operation now, and they are also plug-in hybrid. Important is that the police, which operate these ships by themselves, they like to use the electric drive. If it's possible, they go by electric and they try some kind of gamification. I think they try to get far as possible with the batteries before using the combustion engines. This is our new planned surveying vessel, next generation, so to say. It will be possible to work 4 hours electric. And the next generation of bridge inspection vessels, here on the right side, they will be fully electric. So you can see the development from pure combustion engines to more and more electrical power, but that doesn't mean that the internal combustion engine is dead for us. So it's a combination of electric power and classical combustion engines. So key takeaways. As I said, Port of Hamburg, we think should be a port of innovation, not only growth, but quality, sustainability, and real value instead of poor growth. We have excellent hinterland connections here in Hamburg, the largest railway port, as I said. We have these innovative port development plan. Electrification is one of the biggest items, even for our fleet, but also for the whole port areas and terminals. We will see a lot of electric projects this evening. I didn't talk about green corridors, but they are most important part of our value chains. We will build a sustainable energy hub. We have robotics, drone ports, digital twins, and so on. And we have this unique model for efficient fleet management for Hamburg. And we believe that green shipping is possible even today and, of course, in the near future. So I think with some minutes overtime, like soccer World Cup, I can finish. And thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Carsten, for the talk. It's really interesting. So if you do you have any questions offline or online?
I have a quick question. It's the Port of Hamburg, is that you said the Hamburg Port Authority has a public and a commercial service. Is that public or is it commercial?
Good question. We are actually part of the commercial part.
Okay.
So we have to earn our own money. It's not. It's some kind of difficult, but there has been so much synergies in the first 9 years that we were able to finance the whole green story by using the synergies. But it won't work in the future if we go zero emission, but for the first maybe 10 years it was a possibility for us.
So if anyone has any further questions, please feel free to post your questions in the chat, and I will read and ask the speakers during the roundtable. Okay. So our next speaker is Nicole from LEC from Graph, and she's one of the partners of APOLO project. And she will be talking about the role of large engines and renewable fuels in future maritime applications. Thank you, Nico.
Yeah, thanks, Angela. Good afternoon, everybody. I hope I can manage to actually get my screen going. Yes, very good. I will improvise a little bit because I don't want to repeat too much of what Angela already told you. And I will actually also not contradict Carsten with something what he said, even though electrification is not going to play a large role in my presentation. But I think what I can already give you now more or less the conclusion, because in this case, there's not no real right or wrong when you're looking at ways to decarbonize or defossilize. And a lot really depends on the applications. And I think this is the main message. And I want to show you some of the considerations that are going into that. I guess that maritime transport is important. We all know that. That's why we are here today. But I also want to remind you that from the global merchant fleet of 100,000 vessels, the vast majority is actually powered by internal combustion engines today. So it's 4-stroke, 2-stroke engines. It's for propulsion as well as for power generation. And these engines actually last a long time. So we have multiple decades. And therefore, it's also important that we are not just looking into new builds, but also retrofit possibilities. What I want to touch on today is to actually tell you a little bit more also for what is driving really the technologies that we're going to look at. Talk a little bit about engine concepts for the future. And then I would like to take it one step further, go not just into the engine, but especially the connection also with carbon capture technologies. And there's going to be a talk in the later in the afternoon about carbon capture, where they probably go a little bit more into the technology itself. I mainly want to look at also how carbon capture and engine actually is working together and what considerations go into selecting the best technologies there. It's going to be done on a techno-economic basis, not so much really on a detailed technical level. And then the last step, I want to look at something that Carsten already also touched on, and that is renewable fuels. What is really also the matter of cost of these fuels. So a little bit of a recap, not too much about the decarbonization. So the International Maritime Organization set the goal to achieve zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2050. So when they in 2023 came up with that target, they had a target, but not really a goal to get there. So the question is, what can you do? Of course, everything that's helping efficiency, of course, is a good step to actually pollute less. But projections typically say that you can probably gain maybe 15-20% of CO2 emission reduction with that. In order to really get to where we need to be, that's actually where the technologies that I already mentioned actually come about. So carbon capture, renewable fuels. The renewable fuels could be biofuels, could be carbon-based fuels or carbon-based synthetic fuels, like, for example, e-methanol or e-methane, or the two fuels that we also like in our engines, the carbon-free fuels, hydrogen or ammonia. So this is what I want to talk about today. I will not talk about electrification, and I will also not talk about actually hydrogen very much today. And the reason for that can be seen in this picture here, and that is the estimated energy to volume or energy storage volume ratio relative to diesel fuel. And you can see battery packs are by far the worst option when it comes to storage volume. But hydrogen is actually the second worst. So for vessel applications, especially the ones that are traveling for longer distances, ammonia and methanol are probably the favorite ones. So I mentioned that there's this target from the International Maritime Organization that they want to go to net zero by 2050. What they originally didn't say is how they're actually planning to get there. And in the last couple of years, they developed a net zero framework in order to actually get to the target that they are setting. And this is actually done. But I should mention it's actually not yet finalized. So the vote on it was postponed, unfortunately, last year. But a similar scheme is already in place in Europe. That was what Angela already mentioned, the FuelEU Maritime. So the idea is to set a target for the greenhouse gas fuel intensity, and then every couple of years actually lower this target and combine that with a pricing and reward mechanism. So the idea is if you can hit the target, everything is good. If you can actually have your greenhouse gas intensity lower than the target, you can gain surplus units that you can sell. And if you're exceeding the targets, you need to buy remedial units. Of course, that costs, and that should actually make it worth your effort to actually get to the target without buying remedial units. What's really important to know here is that this is not based on efficiency, but it's based on the greenhouse gas intensity of the energy used on board of the vessel. And a little bit simplified, we could say it's the fuel. So if we are now looking into fuel that is currently being used, this is 2 years also from 2022 to 2024. You can see that what we are showing here in blue is more than 90% of the fuel consumed in the merchant fleet was actually still conventional diesel type fuels. And 7% LNG, and everything else, batteries, methanol, etc. It's all this small sliver here in green. That's roughly 1%. So we certainly have a long way to go to actually achieve the targets that are put forward here by the International Maritime Organization. When we're now looking into what kind of engine concepts can we actually then use, the blue part here, so the blue 90% of the fuel is typically consumed in engines from the diesel type, so what we're seeing on the left. So we have typical diesel engine process, non-premixed. That's, I think, simple. And then the orange sliver here, this is typically LNG. And all this fuel is actually consumed in what we're calling dual fuel engines. And dual fuel is referring to the fact that these engines are able to run on LNG as well as on pure diesel fuel. It's technically not required in terms of redundancy, but this is actually the way it is currently done, as far as I know, in all large vessel applications. And we have a couple of options here, but what they all have in common is that they are ignited by a diesel pilot injection, and then we can have various ways of getting the LNG into the engine. We can have premix, we can have non-premixed, but as mentioned, they all still require some diesel fuel. When we look at how we see what might happen in the future, so we have on the lower left-hand corner here, we have diesel-like renewable fuels, like for example what Carsten already mentioned. We have Fischer-Tropsch fuels, we have HVO of fame. So for these, the diesel combustion cycle will probably be set. And then the question is, what do we do with the other fuels, like for example hydrogen, methanol, ammonia? They don't lend themselves to pure compression ignition, so we are probably going to use them mostly in dual fuel engines as well. Apart from, for example, what Angela mentioned earlier, and now I talk a little bit about the APOLO project, try to keep it short. So we already heard earlier, so this is actually in contrast to the typical dual fuel engines. It's a concept that is based on ammonia alone. So there's of course the advantage that we don't need to bunker any diesel anymore. That's good. But of course, we are also losing the option of switching back to diesel fuel in case, I don't know, no ammonia is available or whatever. But it's this single fuel concept that we are going for. And of course, if we don't have diesel fuel, we need to find a different way of igniting ammonia, because ammonia compression ignition is not going to work very well in realistic applications. And that's why we are looking into spark ignition here. And at the LEC, our job is actually to develop the combustion concept and also demonstrate the prototype that Angela mentioned earlier. So we have this prototype consisting of an engine, a cracker, and an exhaust gas aftertreatment system. We're actually going to use a single-cylinder research engine because the cracker is too small to actually make it run with a multi-cylinder engine on our scale. But to actually prove what we want to prove. This is actually sufficient. And what is also important here is that on top of the ammonia cracker, we are also going to demonstrate the exhaust after treatment system with it, because depending on, for example, the amount of hydrogen we are putting in the engine, we are also going to see different exhaust gas compositions, and therefore also an impact on the exhaust gas after treatment. So we are currently building up already the facilities to also receive the cracker, and then are going to demonstrate this setup that we are seeing here, showing that the membrane reactor technology that Angela showed earlier is feasible. So I will leave it for now with the engines and go a little bit towards the carbon capture technologies and what it actually also means for the engine and the interfaces. As mentioned, we are looking at techno-economic analysis, and we are mainly looking at targets like, for example, how much CO2 emissions can we avoid, how much fuel penalty does it actually incur, and ultimately, what does it cost? When we look at carbon capture technologies, there are a lot of them out there. And what is the industry standard for onshore applications is amine absorption technology. It has a very high TRL level, so everybody knows how it's working, and it's established. One thing that nearly all these technologies have in common is what you're seeing here on the lower part, is that if you want higher separation rates and higher purity, it normally costs you more energy that you need to put in. And then there's also, with all these technologies that I showed there, in general, there's a distinction. Some actually require thermal energy and some require electric energy. So the amine absorption is a typical example where we need thermal energy. A membrane reactor, for example, needs electric energy. And this is going to be important in the next steps. The next results that I'm showing, they are actually a part of a recently finished project from the German FEB that the LEC conducted with two other organizations. And we did system simulation to do this techno-economic assessment. And we selected 4 different vessels: container ship, cruise ship, river cargo vessel, and LNG tanker. So we don't have anything from the Flotte Hamburg. Maybe we should throw that in the mix next time as well. So what is now really important, or why is it important to look at different fleets or different vessels here? And the reasons are listed on the right-hand side. It's the discharge possibilities for the CO2 once we capture something. It's how the revenue loss that we actually incur if we have space requirements. It's a question about available waste heat and other fuel-specific aspects. And what do we mean by that? CO2 discharge possibilities, for example, when we look at the container ship, that's sometimes at sea for 2 weeks without actually stopping anywhere. So the tanks for the CO2 need to be much larger than, for example, for a cruise ship that is hardly ever at sea for more than maybe 1 or 2 days at a time. Notwithstanding the fact that if the port that they are calling has facilities for the CO2 discharge, but in principle would be possible. Color coding here, I guess it's clear. Red is kind of worse, green is better. So apart from CO2 discharge possibilities, we can also look at these revenue loss. Of course, here the cruise ship is actually quite bad because cabin prices are typically high. Things get a little bit more difficult or maybe complex if we're looking at the available waste heat, because we see here that we have 2 of the vessels with 2-stroke engines. 2-stroke engines typically have lower exhaust gas temperature, meaning we can extract less heat that we can then use for the carbon capture. Then we have on top of that, we have the question about fuel type, because if we have a fuel with a lot of sulfur in, we can actually not cool it down so much, and therefore, again, limiting the heat that we can extract from the exhaust gas to use it otherwise. And then we also have the question, of course, how much heat do I actually need for other purposes on board of the vessel? And you can see here, the cruise ship, again, has a very high heat demand to heat all the jacuzzis and the hot showers, while, for example, the river cargo vessel has pretty much no heat demand at all. Furthermore, then there are some aspects based or related to the fuel. For the LNG tanker, a big one is that it has typically some methane slip. Methane is a very potent greenhouse gas, so it's of course a disadvantage. And then, of course, cost is another issue for the fuels. Now, when we're looking at some of the results, and I'm showing here the fuel penalty in percent, you don't need to look at all the individual bars here. So we grouped them for the four vessels for the four use cases that we selected. And two things to note here. One is the spread that we are actually seeing. So, for example, for the container vessel, the fuel penalty goes from 27 to more than 120%. So clearly, there are some technologies that match better with certain applications than others. That's one thing to note. The second one is that typically the ones that are driven by thermal energy have lower fuel penalty than the electric energy driven ones. And now when we are also comparing that now with the available waste heat, you can already see a clear correlation. So the river cargo vessel, where I said earlier, it does not have any other heat demand on board of the vessel. It's using diesel, so a low sulfur diesel, so we can use a lot of the exhaust heat, and it has a 4-stroke engine. So here the fuel penalty can go as low as 13%, while for some other applications, it's in the best case twice that much. So what I want to mainly show you here is the question, which technology works best for carbon capture? Is it typically, it depends. Now I want to throw in the fuels again, and in this case, renewable fuels. So what I showed earlier and what I also want to now focus on is more post-combustion carbon capture. So that means we are taking the CO2 out of the exhaust, not like, for example, pre-combustion carbon capture out of the fuel. And then we have here, we have 4 different cases. We have in our illustration here, we have post-combustion carbon capture, amine gas treatment. This is the one we selected. We have a pre-combustion carbon capture. We have oxy-fuel, and then we have 2 renewable fuels, ammonia and methanol. And we have pricing scenarios for near-term and long-term, so for 2030 and 2050, of course, with the assumption that prices are going to go down in the 20 years in between, hopefully. And again, we selected a use case. In this case, we selected a container ship. It has as a main engine, 2-stroke engine, some additional gensets for that are 4-stroke. And here's just the operating profile. It's not exactly the same as in the other study, but since we are comparing here now only results from this study, it's still valid in our point. And again, we're looking at some of the key performance indicators and see how we are doing. Here we are looking again at fuel penalty, and please focus on the left bar, AGT, so that's the post-combustion carbon capture. And here we are seeing roughly 50% fuel penalty for the journey that we selected. Of course, methanol and ammonia don't have a fuel penalty because no carbon capture. When you look at how much CO2 you can avoid, of course, with the new fuels, 100%, and the amine gas treatment, even though we actually said that we can capture 85% due to the additional fuel demand through fuel penalty, we are actually capturing or avoiding, in this case, roughly 78% of the CO2 emission. So that's, again, carbon capture is not quite as nice as the renewable fuels. Now, when we're looking at the space demand, we are already seeing that maybe there are some disadvantages of carbon capture after all. So we are looking at space demand here for the fuel, for the CO2 tanks, and for the oxy-fuel, also for the liquid oxygen tanks. And you can see that on the left-hand side, the amine gas treatment, we are using conventional diesel fuel. It has a higher fuel or storage density than methanol or ammonia. So the blue bar is actually lower. But of course, all the equipment, all the CO2 tanks has space or space demand. So this is where we are seeing that we are probably better off with the new fuels. But then, of course, ultimately what counts is cost. And here we are now looking at the CO2 abatement cost in euros per ton of avoided CO2. And suddenly you actually see that the carbon capture is a pretty attractive solution, especially the amine gas treatment, so post-combustion carbon capture, where we are seeing that even though we have a couple of different cost types here for capital expenditure, fuel, the deposit costs, for example, but the cost of renewable fuel at the moment, or with the projection for 2030, is actually so high that with all the other complications, we're still better off with carbon capture. The picture changes a little bit if you're looking at this long-term scenario with 2050. So in that case, we're seeing that the renewable fuels become competitive again, and especially ammonia seems to be the most attractive solution here. But of course, this is a projection for the fuel cost. It might come different anyway. So I will leave you with what I already said at the beginning. So there are a lot of solutions that are being worked on at the moment. They're ranging from different fuels for the engines or different technologies to go together with the engine and also carbon capture. And a lot will depend on, of course, availability of renewable fuels, but also predictable regulatory frameworks for the CO2 handling discharge, as well as, of course, for CO2 targets and everything that goes with that. So with that, I'm done. Thanks for your attention.
Well, it was a really good talk and really informative for me, especially from the membrane background. Because I'm very curious about what membrane brings.
Okay.
But and do you have any questions offline here? Anyone online? You can always ask your questions in chat once you have the format, and we will be discussing this during our discussions. So thank you, Nicole, again for this talk. And now we have our third speaker before the break, Professor Timo from the University of Technology from MARPOWER project. Thank you, Professor Timo, for accepting our invitation to speak in this workshop. So he will be speaking on conceptual design of hydrogen fueled gas turbines for marine applications. Professor Timo, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Hopefully you can hear me and
Yes,
also maybe see me. Okay, perfect. Well, thanks a lot for this opportunity to present our project MARPOWER, what has been done at the very beginning of that. And I will share my slides. Just a moment. Hopefully you can see it.
Yes, we can.
So yeah, we have a project. It's MARPOWER. It's a efficient zero-emission gas turbine power system for maritime transport. So we are now talking about the gas turbines. And I'm a professor of fluid mechanics here at Lund University, Finland. Fortunately, we have a very nice weather here, +20, so we are not suffering extremely high temperatures. In this project, we are developing the gas turbine for these renewable or e-fuels, so multi-fuel systems. And I will be now discussing about just this conceptual design. So we have a gas turbine, and now we are kind of evaluating first that what kind of concept would be the best to work with. And of course, we have certain, let's say, initial boundaries which we work with this system, which we kind of fulfill the goals which we have over here. So basically, the whole project objective is develop a flexible and efficient gas turbine energy conversion system in these maritime applications. So kind of a system which could be used in different kind of vessels, maybe also integrating the existing vessel, and that why to be a competitive technology. Of course, as we have already heard that in the maritime we have other technologies like combustion or reciprocating engines, which are the main technology at the moment. Also, fuel cells have been mentioned in the project, which is another option, and maybe third viable option, which we are now presenting here, is this gas turbine. And of course, gas turbine is nothing kind of extraordinary in a maritime applications. It has been used for in different vessels on earlier quite long time. So now we are more, of course, that's kind of a standing point, and now we are developing a new concept here for gas turbines to be utilized. As I said, that the aim is that we have different fuels, because of course, as already discussed, and that there's a different options for these EU fuels or renewable fuels, and one of the goals here is that this technology could be kind of a work with the different fuels, and that's one of the goals. Then when we go further, that we develop the system in the way that it can use many of those. And say that in that order, of course, the goal is that there will be really a reduction on greenhouse gas emissions in up here. So what are the innovations? What we are looking for here is that, of course, advanced gas turbines. We are now talking about the not traditional ones, but two-spool option with the active magnetic bearings, which is a good option here for the performance and reliability. Also, we are looking for waste heat recovery here with the gas turbines. We usually have, and we will have a high amount of waste heat available, even with this design which we are working. So also this waste heat recovery is incorporated here. And in addition, we are also going forward the digital twin technology. So we are building a virtual replica here that we can then simulate and validate in the different let's say vessels and different kind of let's say fuels. We have a nice consortium here. We have 3 partners from Finland, our university, LUT University. Then we have Aurelia, who is making this kind of gas turbines, which we are now studying here. Alfa Laval for heat exchangers and waste heat recovery boilers. DTU is working with rotor dynamics, and we have DLR from Germany. We for combustor designs, and Chantier de l'Atlantique shipyard. And from Italy, we have 2 partners, Politecnico and Rina, which are working then on LCA and other options, and Politecnico for turbo machinery. And Zabala is a project coordinator, and University of Vico is working us with digital twins. So nice composition with the different parts of the Europe working together with this project. So basically, the conceptual design, what we are now looking for, of course, it's a gas turbine, but it's what kind of gas turbine we are talking about? We are talking about two-spool intercooler gas turbine, which basically means that there is 2 separate units with the different shafts, and of course the recuperator, which well recovers the heat and of course improves the efficiency. In addition to that, which is not usually seen in this kind of processes, we also have the waste heat recovery system. So that's even more increase in the efficiency. So we are paying a lot of attention to the efficiency here, because as already mentioned here, that if we are using e-fuels or these fuels, they will be more expensive. So this efficiency gain will be crucial targets. Of course, we also aim to the compact design. I also mentioned here that there is not too much room here for ships and vessels, and also the modular and oil-free designs come from the point that we would like to have the system also cost efficient. So getting rid of some of the systems like oil, which can be quite bulky, And also when we do some modular, so we have two spools, so when they are similar spools in a way that we can use the same components. And of course, the emissions is also one of the key targets. So, well, I think this is quite obvious that these are quite favorable features for these power systems, and we are going for here. One of the key features of this technology is the magnetic bearings and direct drive. So that's how we kind of also don't need to use gearbox, which is usually involved in this kind of systems, and we can improve the mechanical efficiency on that side too. And the oil-free design I already mentioned. And this is for modular design. So now this is also one of the design criteria what we have, that we will design for them with the same power, so we can then have same generator bearings and power electronics for both of these pools, and then it will be reducing cost in that sense. This is how the cycle looks in the big picture. So two spools. Now you can see that there is two. Let me see that two shafts which have compressors and turbines in the same shaft with the same power. We have two intercoolers. In this design, actually, I saw a few results. We actually get rid of one of those intercoolers because it was beneficial for the system. We have recuperator and then different fuels and then waste heat recovery boiler. So altogether now what we are here studying is a system where, let's say, the electric power is a little bit over 5 megawatt in our setup, which is worked with in this project. So if I shortly describe this conceptual design, how we worked with this, there is a bit, unfortunately, some of the technical details, maybe too much, but I'm just shortly going through. So basically, we work with the process simulations here with mass momentum energy balances, and what is now different with the usual kind of this high-level designs, that we actually have also component designs done within this loop. So we will actually update these performances in this cycle to get the most accurate estimation of this gas turbine performance. Waste heat recovery cycle is not considered that in detail. We are working with the 50% of Carnot efficiency, which is pretty good, that kind of standard estimation for low temperature waste heat recovery to the electricity. For example, organic ranking cycles can achieve approximately that kind of. And also some details here, we are looking also the cooling flows, because that is an important feature here, because relatively high temperatures, and also this rotor dynamic is considered, so we are restricting the rotational speeds to the 15,000 RPMs. Well, as it's a gas turbine, we have, of course, compressors and turbines, which are then designed within this design cycle. So we are using with the loss correlations and to get the more detailed insights of the efficiency. And also we are designing this cooling architecture here and are looking for a couple of different cooling options, and also different metal temperatures now, depending on what kind of, let's say, materials will be used and how they are available. In addition, the combustor design is very crucial here, because at this point we are working with the hydrogen as the fuel, but as I mentioned earlier, that okay, the goal is that we have the capability of using different kind of fuels. At this point, this conceptual design, this analysis is done by hydrogen. And with this design, we can estimate basically the pressure less, and more importantly, we can also evaluate the NOx emissions, which are, of course, when you combust hydrogen, might be an issue here. And of course, this process is kind of iterative, so we kind of go through with the different partners with this process and come together with the, let's say, try to come together with the optimized design. So a few results from this conceptual design analysis. So I think generally in this kind of gas turbine process, we first is evaluated is the maximum pressure of the cycle is evaluated, and when we are doing that, we can see that okay, with the 12 bars we can get quite the optimal pressure here. These values, what you see here, are the efficiencies with purely gas turbine or gas turbine and waste heat recovery cycle. And of course, with further designs, we will go with the 12 bars. There is, of course, higher pressures might be slightly better in some cases, but now when we have this kind of waste heat recovery and the recuperator, this is kind of a modest, relatively modest pressure for gas turbine, which we can achieve a very good efficiency. Secondly, this cooling option was also studied because that makes a big difference. As you can see here, there is different studies done with the different architectures. I'm not going to go into details, but it just means that where we take the cooling and where it is introduced in the cycle. But basically, we can see that it has a significant impact on the efficiency here. So the cooling plays a crucial part for that kind of system to be efficient. And also then by increasing the temperature of material stands, that makes a crucial role here in the efficiency, as you can see in the most right-hand side bars, which we get the best efficiencies when we kind of increase the temperatures of the blades. So this material choices actually makes also the big impacts here. What else was looked? Of course, we want to have a compact design, and also, let's say, that means that the fewer parts. And then we were studying that could some of these internal intercoolers be omitted, and actually also there was another reason for rotor dynamic reasons that this was kind of was proposed, so we can get the shorter shaft, and then that could be a viable option. And with that, we can see that it will get the gas turbine efficiency lower, but since we have this waste heat recovery, it doesn't affect much. Actually, we can actually improve efficiency slightly. Then we were using these two data. That was the results from the left-hand side. Then we used two different cooling options. So clearly, when we improve the cooling from the convective cooling, the more like a film cooling type of system, we can again increase our efficiencies above 50%. So kind of highlights this cooling arrangements importance of that. But unfortunately, of course, in gas turbines, generally the better the efficiency, the higher you have the turbine inlet temperature. So, but now when we have high turbine inlet temperatures, we also have a high NOx emissions, and that's why we were forced to decrease the turbine inlet temperature to the 1200 Celsius, which then of course decrease our efficiency. But we are still in our target, which was above 50% efficiency in this project with the waste heat recovery. But I think this kind of emissions need to be, let's say, considered already in the conceptual design phase, that we can meet these targets which we are aiming for. So just to conclude here, what we have, so basically that shows that this is kind of a we can find a good design with the efficiency, high efficiency, which this kind of a conceptual designs, this kind of concept, and also this kind of a compact and modularity can be shown with these kind of options. Well, this is for the process. I think it's very important to have iterative process. Otherwise, we can end up having some criteria not to meet, or some sub-optimal designs. And one of the key things, of course, here is that this waste heat recovery provides consistent efficiency improvements across the pressures and actually across the different conceptual design options. So I think this part also plays a crucial part in this system. And well, and again, with these different cooling layouts, it seems that we need to pay a lot of attention here as we did. And with let's say, better cooling arrangements, we can have that impact minimized for the system. And of course, these emission targets are something that we need to meet, and then it comes with the penalty of the thermal efficiency. So what we are going to do next we will be doing some experimental verifications and validations with the combustor. So there will be testing with the combustor using hydrogen. It will be also included one of the Aurelia's gas turbines. So we will be testing this gas turbine with the hydrogen. Recuperator will be also tested. That's probably one of the bulky elements here, and it need to be carefully looked at the performance that we can get the compact design. Also, these gas turbine spools will be tested with magnetic bearings, also with the moving platform, but we can see that it can be work, or we can use it in the maritime application. So all these validations and verifications are very important, and they will be doing within this project. So that's all from my side. So we are in a conceptual design, so we can find that there is a viable options here. So we are now going forward with the validation, verifications, the models, and then at the end, of course, we also build the digital twin, which can be then hopefully used for kind of seeing that how this kind of technology works in the different applications. So thanks a lot.
Thank you, Professor Dimo, for the nice talk. It sounds like a really good project, an exciting project. Do we have a question on this here? Yes, we have a question offline.
Perhaps it is like easy to answer, but how can these gas turbines be oil free?
Yeah, basically, usually the oil is for lubrication, for moving parts, and now we have basically the oil free. Where it comes from, how we can achieve is the magnetic bearings. So basically, the bearing solution will enable that. I don't know, did I answer your question? Hopefully, I heard it right.
Yeah, thank you.
So if you have any other questions, please feel free to post in the chat. And thank you again for the talk.
Thank you.
And now we have a little break. Hello, everyone. I hope you can hear us.
Yes, we can hear you.
So we would resume our workshop now. The talk, so Ajay Ramling, presenting MetNH3Energy project. So yes, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Angela. So thank you everyone for joining up lunch too. And thanks for having me here. It's a nice time to interact with a lot of people involved in the field. And it's also nice to hear from different projects what kind of progress they're making in this sector. So my name is Ajay Ramling. I'm from Psychology Technician from the Sunstall, which is the National Meteorology Institute of Germany. So for someone who wants to distinguish between metrology and meteorology, metrology is the science of measurements, but we'll see what this is about in the presentation too. So this is roughly my angle today. So the idea is not to go very much technical, but to give you a glimpse of what kind of projects we handle, what's the focus of the institute, and what kind of partnerships we are involved in. And then come back to the technical side of things, which is ammonia. A lot has been spoken about in the past presentations too. And I think I can speed up some of it because there's some repetitions I can see. And jump into where metrology plays a role and then summarize the entire presentation as a whole. So before going into this, so I wanted to ask, like, what do you do with these numbers that you measure every day? So the question is, how much do you trust these numbers that you measure? And this trust comes from the quality of the measurements, and this is where the metrology plays a key role. And as an institute which focuses largely on metrology, the primary focus is to ensure that we have the standards available to measure different parameters. And the measured parameters have to be traceable back to the SI units. So this is primarily the focus of much of the metrology institutes in Europe and around the world. And like you see, everywhere you turn, like you do a lot of measurements, and some of these measurements have a legal basis and also have regulatory focus. And some of it is also involving financial trade. And here, the accuracy of these measurements are key for you to have trust in these values and also the effect of the transactions made. So that's the importance of metrology, and that's where we trying to focus a lot on. A little bit on PDB. So PDB, we have a lot of tasks, and it is very interdisciplinary, and it also varies with different technical expertise also. We have 9 technical divisions, which some of them are in Braunschweig, a few of them are actually located in Berlin. But we focus on different innovation clusters. The list is given below. Like we focus on energy, climate, environment protection, health and safety, digital transformation, quantum technology, and system metrology. But on the right side, what you can clearly see is actually some of the selection of the legal tasks of PDB. And you can see that this has a lot of variations. And what I really want you all to actually take away from here is actually the part which is in red, which is the measurements and verification. So we try to ensure that we have the testing and the certification of measurement instruments for commercial transactions, official dealings, traffic monitoring, radiation protection, environmental protection. So this is one of the main focus. And other part is also the realization of the SI units. So we support the German Accreditation Institute, DARTS, on the dissemination of these units. And the ones in yellow, this is also based on regulatory support for different regulatory acts. And with this kind of an understanding, I'd like to kind of step away from the national perspective and go a little bit towards the European perspective. So much of these metrology institutes around Europe, they join together in a regional metrology organization called EUproject. And the intention here is to try to tackle the global challenges, including health and climate, and support different takeaways from the EU, like the EU Green Deal, and also support the industry in ensuring the innovation is par with the different countries and nations. So there is a funding program on this, which is also supported by the EU, and this is the Metrology Partnership. And the last phase of this is from 2021, from 2027 to 2027. So the 2 projects that I would like to speak about today, it is from the 2023 and 2024 calls, one focusing on the industry call, and the second one is on the European Green Deal. A side note, if you are interested to participate in such of these calls, like there is already a second stage call for the 2026. So the industry, fundamental, normative, and research potential. The link is there down below. I think you will get access to the PDF after the meeting. So feel free to join one of these partner meetings. There's a wide range of topics. So if it is of interest, please browse around the website. So moving to the project introduction. So the first project here was from the 2023 call, which focuses on the maritime sector. It's metrology for clean maritime shipping, so emission control through traceable measurements and machine learning approaches. It's quite an intense consortium. We have 16 partners, as you see there. And I don't want to go into these numbers. I think enough has been spoken about it. But I'd like to emphasize the last 2 slides on the right-hand part of it. So it's the emission parameters and also the new fuels that are targeted in the sector at the moment. So even for the new fuels that you're using, there would be emissions. So there would be lesser emissions of carbon, but even if you're using ammonia, you would end up having nitrogenated emission species. And this has to be, in our case, like we would emphasize that it has to be monitored and it has to be measured. And even for designing these engines, like you need the right tools, and these right tools have to give you accurate insights into how the combustion processes are happening. And this was the basis of how the entire project was eventually conceptualized. And we focused primarily on these three parameters, which was emission measurements, dynamic quantities, and machine learning approaches, which were kind of key aspects for ensuring that you can design your engine in a much more efficient way. So when we speak about dynamic quantities, I'd like to emphasize that we're speaking about dynamic pressure measurements and dynamic temperature measurements in a combustion process inside an engine. And to do this, you really need to have the right tools. And this is where the measurement systems and the measurement institutes bring in their expertise. And they try to ensure that these tools are available and it is also traceable at the end. So this is a one slide overview of the entire project. There's a lot going on there. So I'll try to take you through the steps. On the left, you see the different work packages. 3 of them are technical, like I mentioned before, and 2 are supportive. So the 3 technical work packages focus on emission measurements, dynamic pressure and temperature, and machine learning approaches. So these are very interactive, and which takes us to the middle section of it. There's a lot of arrows here and there. It shows all the interactions between the work packages. But what we'd like to really emphasize is whatever measurements we tend to do, develop sensors. These sensors are tested in the laboratory scale and later also in the application. In this particular project, this is also going to be tested in an engine, which is a small truck-based engine, and later also a chance to measure it in a large engine at Wärtsilä, which provides a lot of high-quality data because all the measurements and the sensors are calibrated at metrology institutes, which maintain higher standards. And this high-quality data is later fed into work package 3, which is focusing a lot on machine learning approaches, which is led by LEC, which is also a partner here. And this is used for developing these models, and this ensures that the models are also of a high quality and gives us meaningful results. And on the right-hand side, you see some numbers. I don't want to go into the details, but we do also have collaborators in the project. So these are people out of their own interest, want to participate in contributing towards the project and also ensuring that they update the technology or update the standards that we are trying to also establish as part of the project. So with that, I'd like to go to the next one. So it's the metrology to support ammonia use in emerging applications. So this was kind of a follow-up year 1, year 2 project. So in the first year, we did kind of interact with a lot of members in this field and really understood the importance of actually ensuring that the metrology infrastructure also has its space when it comes to ammonia. And we want to make sure that all these supportive services are available to the industry in the right time so that we're not lagging behind. So that was the basis. But what we also did was we did a very thorough understanding of the entire process. We really started from understanding what is the metrology needs when it comes from the ammonia production up to the application part of it. So in every part of this section, wherever there was a need, this was kind of aligned into different work packages, which you can see down below the figure. So which focuses on reference materials and impurities. The second one on gas and liquid flow measurements. Third, focusing more on leakage and material compatibility. And the fourth on emission measurements and life cycle analysis. The next slide, you will see a little bit more on what we plan to focus in these different work packages. There's a lot of text as usual, but I'll try to give you a brief insight on what you can expect in these different work packages. So in work package 1, I think the importance is to have the reference materials for understanding the quality of the ammonia wherever you use. I think even in the APOLO project, we are using ammonia to crack it. So the question is, what is the purity of ammonia before? And what is the impurities that you notice in the ammonia? And for this, you need a reference material. And this is the work of metrology institutes. We are working on such kind of impurities. So we are kind of streamlining with industry requirements to understand what kind of impurities we have to look into. Some of them were identified before drafting the project. And we want to also ensure that these reference materials are also available for priority air pollutants. So ideally, when you try to burn ammonia, you end up having NOx and N2O. So these would be in trace levels, and making sure that we have these reference materials for the analyzers to be kind of calibrated against these standards. Work package 2, this is also crucial because everyone is using ammonia, and this is going to flow either in gaseous form or liquid form, and these flow meters have to be calibrated. And so far, at least in the institutes that we have, we don't have a standard for ammonia. And this is always kind of done in analogy with different fluid mediums, but it has to be again validated for ammonia. So this is basically the focus in work package 2. And we're trying to do it both for gaseous and liquid ammonia flow meters. But we're also trying to have novel methods like laser Doppler velocity dosimetry to use such kind of methods so that methods are available also for the industry to be used. Work package 3 is a little bit on the usage side. So it is important to also look into leakage of ammonia to the environment, and it also has to be monitored in an area where ammonia is going to be used, especially an engine room. You need to detect the ammonia because it is corrosive, it is toxic. So the sensors should also be kind of calibrated, and you should also see if there's drift in these sensors and how much can you expect drift in these kind of sensors, and so on and so forth. And these things have to be also tested, and that's the focus of work package 3. And we are not only looking on that aspect, we're also looking into the material compatibility and how the sensor degrades because of use of ammonia in very harsh environments, especially in combustion environments too, which are higher pressures, higher temperatures. And this is also the focus in work package 3. Work package 4 basically takes us to the priority air pollutants that comes from ammonia combustion. What we would like to really do is do field measurements where we could measure these air pollutants real time, and also with in addition to measuring flow rates, which gives you a comprehensive idea of how much you are emitting per kg. So these are the partners. We have 24 partners, 2 of them plus 2 of them are unfunded beneficiaries. And we already have 2 collaboration partners, Alpha Laval and A-Star, which is also a research company in Singapore, which has also kickstarted some projects in similar directions. So there's a lot of interest from their side too. And we have 2 collaborations in the pipeline, which is one with the Metrology Institutes in Colombia and Argentina. So I'd like to know a little bit more on how metrology projects are kind of contributing to the sector. There's going to be a pitching session tomorrow at the LSSTF forum tomorrow. So keep an eye on it. If you can join online, that would be great. If you're joining in person, feel free to join that session too. And we also have a few other speakers who are part of the consortium. So I think there would be some emphasis on how these projects are affecting their techniques or also their methods. So keep an eye on that event tomorrow too. So going into the last part, I'll try to keep it very quick. So the intention of this slide was actually before and after effect. So before we started the project, we kind of looked into what is the industry looking for and when are they actually planning to bring out these technologies. And if you see the one on top, this one is from Mozilla. So you can see that the ammonia, hydrogen, and methanol are in a different color. So there's industrialization needed for methanol. There's development needed for hydrogen and ammonia. And this was in early 2023. And the picture that you can see below is actually from their press release in 2025, where they've already launched an engine. And on the right, this is from WinGD. This is also a large 2-stroke engine manufacturer. And here they've gone even further. So by 2025, they wanted to have something which was methanol ready and ammonia ready. And now this is already on board a ship-going or ocean-going vessel. And this is significant steps forward. So the intention for us here is to understand how fast the industry is moving and how quickly the metrology needs should also be addressed so that it is in par with the industry needs. The regulations, there was a bit of discussion already in the previous talks about fuel EU maritime regulation. So I'd like to skip the part in the left because this has been discussed quite well so far. The one on the right, I'd like to dig a little bit more into how this greenhouse gas intensity is calculated. So a quick schematic there. So the emissions up from production till it's been put into the ship. This is the well to tank. And then the tank to wake is basically the operation of the ship. So the emissions in total have to be kind of understood and reported. So this is a requirement from the FuelE EU Maritime Regulation. And you could see if you can see the formula there, I think you can see it's the well to tank and the tank to wake. So I'd like to skip the well to tank part of it. That's something, it has its own process, but the tank to wake, this is something that has multiple options, and this is taken care by the formula which is given below. We look a little bit further into what this formula actually says, because this is very interesting also from a metrology perspective. So the numerator part of it, it has like three broad terms. So one which focuses on how much fuel is consumed on board the ship. The second term is the emission that's coming out of the engine and the CO2 equivalents from the tank to wake. And the third part is the fuel slip from the engine and its contribution to the CO2 equivalents. So the CO2 equivalents is basically a combination of your emission factors, which is defined already in the regulation by now. So the table below, it gives you these values for the type of fuel that you use and these emission factors for CO2, methane, and N2O. And the global warming potential of CO2, which gives you basically the entire calculated value. So what I really want to focus is the methods that are used. So the A, B, C, and D, these are methods already defined in this regulation. So at the moment, much of it is basically A and B. So the fuel consumption is basically the factor that is used to calculate the entire part, because everything else is given in the table below, and you just have to use this to calculate the entire greenhouse gas intensity. So, but C and D, these are optional. So there are certain ship operators who do use flow meters to understand how much fuel they are using in different engines and from different fuels. And the fourth one, there are very few who use emission measurements on board to directly report emissions. But going forward, we really see that there could be a potential that people would start to move into C and D. And when you see, when you take C, for instance, in the project that we presented before, the MetNH3 Energy project. So we are ensuring that the calibration of these flow meters are done with the highest standard possible. So that is very important, that the metrology institutes are also evolving as the regulation also demands and also the industry demands. And when you want to kind of switch from A, B, and C into D, like also measure the emissions, then this becomes even more tedious. So it involves financial updates, it also involves technology updates, and it also should last for a longer period of time, because once installed on the ship's life cycle is already around 20 to 30 years. So with this emphasis, I'd like to go a little bit into the metrology side and why we are kind of getting ourselves involved in this part, because you could see the regulatory requirements of also doing measurements as we go forward. And when it comes to these measurements, this has to be reported. And if you're over emitting, you will be penalized. And this is basically kind of ensuring that you're not over penalized if you're measuring. And at the same time, you're not paying less in penalties if you're using the wrong methods. So in this slide, I think what I would like to show is on the right-hand side, this is basically the traceability chain. So this is done basically for gas measurement hierarchy. So just when you want to kind of ensure that your analytical methods are giving you the right values, you use these primary reference materials. But for very, very difficult molecules like ammonia, for instance, if you want to create some primary reference materials, a lot has to be understood, because you could prepare these reference materials through gravimetry methods, but we don't know what comes out. So for that, we have to kind of understand the entire process as a whole. And this is basically the role of these metrology institutes, to ensure that we have these kind of standards available. A novel approach that we are trying to establish as part of these projects is ensuring that this traceability is achieved through spectroscopy methods. So on the right, you can see this is the standard approach. You have an analyzer, you use a gas, you check the analyzer for a known quantity of these calibration gases, and you get a value, and you know that your analyzer gives you the right value. The approach on the right, it's using spectroscopy methods. So this was also done for ozone. So this is already a standard for the case of ozone. So with this as an example, we like to kind of take similar approaches, which gives us a lot of flexibility and also a lot of novelty to the industry to take it up as we go forward. And this is what we would like to do for a number of the pollutant species that are targeted in this sector. So in the MaritimeMET project, we wanted to establish such kind of spectroscopy methods for the target species that are mentioned on top. And one such example is the N2O, and this is basically done at PTB. So the intention that you see is that we are trying to have multiple possibilities. One is ensuring that you have these primary reference materials, but also have these spectroscopic methods as an option for the industry to take it up in time. So on the left, you can see the schematic of how this entire technique is established, but this is still on a laboratory scale. But in between, it shows you how much of effort we've done in reducing the uncertainties of the different factors involved in ensuring that we measure the right concentration of a particular species. And in this case, this is N2O. And this is based on the Beer-Lambert's law. And the intention is this is a derivative of this entire formula. So on the left, you see that's the concentration that you have to measure. And these are basically the different parameters that are involved. One is a constant. The others are basically that you can measure everything from the experiment that you perform. And since everything is measured and traceable back to the SI, in total, we think this is a good method to ensure that there's spectroscopic traceability directly from such kind of methods. And in this process, what we've really shown in this particular study is for N2O, we are able to kind of go into very trace gas detections of 0.14 micromole per mole, which is 140 ppb. So to that level, we are able to measure N2O in your exhaust. And this is required because we would also want to test this system against different analyzers, and we want to understand what is the lower limit of these systems. And that's the reason why we have such kind of methods in metrology institutes. So that brings me to the summary of it. I think that's kind of gives you a glimpse of what we do in these fields. So I took you through what is the role of metrology and what are these institutes doing in different EUROMET projects that we presented right now, and how this is eventually supporting regulatory efforts, supporting the industry, and also eventually the society as a whole, in making sure that you can trust these measurements that are basically reported from different sectors. So with that, I'd like to leave it here. And this is one of my favorite slides, which basically tells what metrology is about. And this is from Lord Kelvin. And he says, I often say that when you can measure what you are speaking about and express it in numbers, you know something about it. But when you cannot measure it, when you cannot express it in numbers, your knowledge is for meager and unsatisfactory kind. So I'll leave it there. And thanks for the time and opportunity. And if you have any questions, I'm here.
Thank you. That was a really good informative talk. Do we have any questions offline?
I have
Yes.
one question. It's about the online emissions monitoring. How does that work?
How does it work?
I guess quickly. I mean, since you mentioned that, I guess people don't have the ability to monitor themselves.
Yeah, there are equipments available. So the exhaust stack,
Yeah.
that's where these instruments are typically kind of installed.
Yeah.
But these are usually bulky.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, they also have issues with the type of the methodology or the the technique used there. And what we are trying here is to make sure that these techniques are evolved as we identify newer species. So that's the focus, but I'm not from that field. Why they are not using that more? That's something I'm also struggling to understand. But I think it's largely there's no real need for them to do it so far because there was only now a regulation that's requiring them to measure these emissions and report. So that's my understanding of why it's not used. But from the technical perspective, there are a lot of emission measurements systems available.
If anyone online has a question, please put it in the chat and we'll be discussing it during our roundtable session. Okay, thank you, Ajoy, for the talk. Now we move to Cesar. He's online from
Okay.
CTC.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Open my camera.
Yes.
The camera is working now.
So he'll be speaking on
Okay.
electro reduction to renewable methane based on ELECTROMET projects contribution to green fuels. Yes, sir.
Thank you. I'm trying to share my screen. Just a second. Sorry, my computer is going very slowly.
Yes. Yes. Yes, it's loading if you can.
Yes, my computer is like a block. In just a second, I will try to reopen my Teams, or I will move to another computer.
Okay.
Can you hear me? I suppose yes, because I am hearing you, but
Argus, if you have the presentation, you can
yeah,
also.
the problem is in my computer because the camera is like blocked.
Okay.
Cesar, can you see the screen?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Argus already shared it, so
Yeah. So maybe can you speak, and when your computer is working,
yeah,
Okay.
I mean, continue like this. That's what I think.
Actually, I just see the general camera. I can see the presentation, my presentation, and another. I don't know why. I think I will move to my another computer that is better than this one. Just give me 1 minute. I move because it is possible.
If you have any questions, speakers, feel free to ask right now so that we can.
Yeah, I will try. I will try to move.
Thank you. So, Ajoy, I have a question for you. Maybe that's a fill-up. So, you were talking about the leakage detection of ammonia. Can you just like, where did you try to measure it? I mean, can you just let me go through that?
So we don't really test it anywhere at this point. So the intention is to see if there are sensors available in the market and see how it performs in a controlled environment. And to understand what is their lower limit of detection and trying to understand more about these sensors. And making sure that such kind of a system is available in metrology institutes to test such sensors and understand the performance of these sensors. So that's the intention of the project. We've not tested the sensor or the sensors that's partly developed in the project in the field. So that's not the focus there.
Okay, so I mean, because ammonia is is really a difficult subject for everyone. So maybe like it should have been developed. The sensors should have been developed like way before people, try to make assumptions for it. So it's a good initiative that you are trying to develop ammonia sensors. And also you said about the flow meters for ammonia was also not that developed. So maybe
Sorry.
Hello again.
Yes,
Can
sir.
you hear?
Yes,
Can you
yes.
hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Sir.
And can you see my screen in presentation mode?
Yes.
Everything is working well, I suppose.
But
Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
we can just conclude the discussion here and then we'll come to you. Yes.
It's okay now.
Yes, Cesar. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry.
We'll take it up later. Discussion. Yeah. Okay, Cesar, go ahead. The floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you again. Thank you for this opportunity. To you, to Apollo team, to invite me to this presentation. My name is Cesar Escobar, and today I'm going to talk about the ELECTROMET's contribution to the clean fuels. I am from CTC and Technological Center here in Spain. And this project is called ELECTROMET and is co-founded by SET Partnership and the European Union. Well, the growing interest of bioplan expectation and exploration. Many bioplants is producing CO2 in some of them, around 50 to 90% of CO2. And in some cases, this product is not well exploited. And in some cases, is released into the atmosphere. For this reason, it was created a direct CO2 electrocatalysis for renewable methane production or ELECTROMET project, with the objective to develop a sustainable method for producing renewable methane from carbon dioxide by electroreduction. What is the difference here? The difference is that here in this process, in this electrochemical process, we avoid to use the produce, storage, and transport hydrogen for the methanation process. We integrate this step into the direct electroreduction system, and then with the idea to storage or integrate the methane produced into the gas market, existing gas market. This project is led by CTC. In our project there are three laboratories from different universities, from University of Porto, one from University of Cantabria, and another one from Polytechnic University of Turin. And we are working with three industries, in this case, Draven from Greek, Eco Dualba, and Hydrotech from here in Spain. This project has a duration of 3 years, and we are in the middle of this project, month 18. Well, but how we pretend to attain our objective? Well, okay. Our system is divided in 4 innovation pillars, all of them integrated around and to the electrochemical reactor. Our first pillar is related with the electrocatalysis system. Here, our main objective is to integrate the CO2 reaction to aim that the 8 electrons transform this CO2 molecule to methane molecule. Our second pillar is the integration of this of the catalyst developed before into real electrodes that could be used for the methane production. After that, we are going to use a digital twin to improve all of the parameters that we are going to use for the electrode fabrication and for the reactor integration in order to improve the scale-up process. And finally, we are going to move to our four pillars, like the implementation of all the technologies into a net zero CO2 pilot system. And this system is going to be tested in a real biogas plant. Our objective is to reach a technical system and a TRLCs. Well, now I'm going to explain a little better all of the four innovation pillars. The first one is the electrocatalysis or the design of 3 high-performance catalysts. We define them in 3 different families. The first one, it was named inorganic family. Here we are working with copper nanoparticle in order to integrate them into support. In this case, the best situation and the best performance are supported by aluminum oxides and by silicon oxides. The objective here, the copper, is a good selectivity to transform CO2 to methane, and the metallic oxides help us to distribute very well the copper particles. Here in this route, we are using actually microwave assisted hydro or solvent thermal process in order to easily scale the inorganic catalyst production. We could move from milligrams to grams easily. Our second system is second family is the organometallic families. Here we are based on metallic organic frameworks. The important part here is that using this kind of system, we could manage the catalyst architecture in order to separate the copper. Here we are using also copper particles, and the idea here is to use and to install the copper in the center of the framework in order to easily to help to change the CO2 molecules to interact and react these molecules to transfer to methane. Here there are the 3 more efficient systems that we are developing until now. We are working in others, but the most important are this one. And then we are working, for example, here in CTC, we are working with non-metallic catalysts or based in graphene quantum dots. This one is important because the idea here is to reduce the dependence of using problematic or critical environmental metals and trying to use another kind of systems to have the same results. Here we are working to doping graphene quantum dots with different elements like nitrogen, sulfur, and boron. Currently, we are working with these 4 different catalysts. An important thing here is that in our pre-screenings laboratories tests, these graphene quantum dots doped by nitrogen and doped by nitrogen and sulfur show the best conditions. But now we are using these materials to produce the electrodes, and the situation changed a little, and the lower condition in the screening system, the worst situation was the worst material was the sulfur material is showing currently the best condition. But okay, we are working trying to understand the idea why this this graphene quantum dot doped by sulfur is working better than the other system. Then, after we develop and produce our catalyst, we need to move to the electrofabrication. That is why I showed you before that for the graphene quantum dots systems, at the beginning from the screening procedure, we found the best condition for the graphene quantum dots doped by sulfur. But when we move to the electrode fabrication, many other parameters are involved, and many other parameters can change the situation. Here, in our second pillar, we want to have the possibility to create and to fabricate the electrodes in a specific condition that we could replicate, and these electrodes have durability, and after that we could scale these systems into the bigger reactor. Our target objective is to find a Faraday efficiency higher than 80%, using and employing a current density at least 100 milliamps per square centimeter. At the beginning, we are going to work at 5 centimeters square in a small reactor, and then from this result, we are going to move to a bigger reactor around 100 centimeters squares. And why gas diffusion electrodes in our system, in our project? We are going to use gas diffusion electrodes because they allow us to work and to test and to transform the CO2 molecule in higher current densities system. And why? Because, for example, here I am showing you the old liquid system. And for example, for the CO2, we need to do that the CO2 molecule, the gas, it dissolve into the liquid system in the liquid electrolyte, then move to the interface until reach the catalyst surface to react with the catalyst surface to transform to methane. But the CO2 is traditionally is very the solubility is very low in aqueous solutions. That is why the concentration of CO2 around the catalyst surface is very low, and during the reaction, this concentration is starting reducing. Another reaction that is very important and work at the same time with the methane production is the hydrogen evolution reaction appears. And if we reduce the CO2 molecules around the catalyst, this hydrogen evolution reaction increase, and at the end it becomes primary the reaction, the primary reaction. That is why we move to the gas diffusion electrodes. Why? Because this porous system allow the CO2 molecules go through the channels and go directly and easily to the catalyst surfaces. It helps us to increase the current density and to transform easily the CO2 to methane molecules. In our project, we are working with gas diffusion layer divided in 3 different layers. The first one is the substrate. This is a macro porous substrate. It works like the structure to support the electrode. Here, the macro porous substrate allows to the gas diffusion and penetration into the electrode. Then we are going to have micro porous layer. This micro porous layer helps us to the catalyst monolayer install better on the electrode and interact better with the CO2 gas. And on this micro porous layer, we are going to deposit the catalyst monolayer. And here in this monolayer is that the CO2 production occurs to methane. And in order to have the reproducibility of these electrodes, we are changing the idea to use the manual production of electrodes, and now we are using automated space-based manufacturing process. And here we could control the different parameters for the electrode fabrication, like linear velocity, the pressure, the temperature, the nose height, the distance, the steps, and the path for the electrode fabrication. All of these parameters are very important in order to have a specific condition for the different electrodes. And after that, we have our electrode system. We move to our third innovation pillar, that is the digital twin. Here, we want to link the experimental data to the predictive models in order to optimize many things. The reactor design, how we will scale up the different system, and after that we are going to adapt our model to the pilot system in order to have a real-time operation control. We are already defined our most important input variables. For example, current, density, temperature, electrolyte type, concentration, flow, and gas purity, and so on. Then we are going to use this information, use our models in order to have the outputs, that is the predictions outputs, for example, to have like a methane concentration, the fire efficiency, energy consumption, and all these parameters is going to help us to have decisions decision in order to change some parameters to have a higher methane production or efficiency. After that, we move to our last innovation pillar, that is the net zero CO2 pilot plant integration. Here, our idea is to create a modular system, transportable, that is possible to adapt to different CO2 sources and operating in different environments. Our first idea or our first step is to validate this pilot in a laboratory scale, first using a 5 centimeter square, checking that all the system, the electrodes are working, the digital twin is working, that is possible to obtain different data from the different experiments. Then move to a 100 square centimeters for a reactor and validate all the system again, because as I already mentioned, the electrode fabrication and the parameters could change, if the area of if the electrode area changes. In this case, it's going to change a lot. Our second validation step is to the long-term durability, because at the beginning we are going to work in our laboratory scale during hours, then move to at least 100 hours, and then move to the industrial environment and try to reach 500 hours of methane production. All of these hours, our idea is to have close to 2 liters per minute of gas feed. Another interesting thing, because we are going to validate this system in a real biogas plant, is to evaluate, predict the import, the evolution of CO2 to methane production, including the impurities of the different biogas streams. We know that we need to implement some pretreatment system in order to improve our production. And then we need to implement, in order to have a net zero CO2 pilot, we are going to connect our system to renewable electricity. In this case, a photovoltaic system in the EcoDual company. And finally, in order to incorporate the impact assessment, we need to conduct the LCA and LCC analysis to evaluate the social, environmental impacts and market viability. Why? Because we need to to put all these ideas together, the technological one, but also the environmental and the social impacts all together in order to create a roadmap that could be user associated employed for the next biogas implementation and regulations. We want to have an interactive collaboration with governing agencies, social agencies, and local agencies that help us to improve the necessities for all of us, industry representative also. And the final conclusion is that here in ELECTROMET, we are developing technologies that we are used for the production of renewable methane, and then these technologies could be used to supply in some cases, maritime and port applications. And that's it. Thank you. This is our colleagues from the different universities and the funding agencies.
Thank you, Cesar, for that insightful talk.
Thank you.
Questions from the audience? Online? I think you won't be staying for the roundtable discussion, I suppose, right, Cesar? So I'll just have a very quick question for you. You've been talking about the development of MOFs and organometallics. They are low TRL catalysts, right? Like, are they, like, have you scaled it up? I mean,
Actually, yes. Actually, we started with TRL 3, and now we are moving to a TRL, a higher TRL, but because we need to scale up the system.
yes,
Because
yeah, I see
yes.
TRL6. So I'm just saying that like all the, because organometallics, I don't know how effective it is to scale up. So
Currently, we are working with this system, and we are having some results around 65% of paradigm efficiency. That is not enough for us, for our target, but is an important advance situation.
yes, that's great to hear, because my background is in organometallics and like I'm computational chemist, so I was just curious about it. So thank you, Cesar, for the talk. So now next we have a speaker from EUproject, Marcos. Are you online? Yes.
Yep.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear
Does
you.
the sound okay?
Yes, it's fine.
Perfect.
So, hi, Marcos is from EUproject, one of our partners in APOLO project. He has kindly agreed to speak about the leveraging ammonia cracking solutions to decarbonize the maritime industry. Marcos, the floor is yours.
Okay. Just give me a moment to share the screen. Can you hear my screen? Can you see my screen? Can you see my screen?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, thank you. So good afternoon again. My name is Marcos. I'm product engineer at EUproject. And today I'm here to talk to you about the APOLO project and basically about the role of ammonia as a potential fuel for maritime and how we can leverage ammonia cracking to decarbonize maritime operations. So starting with a challenge definition, the slides don't. Okay, good. So basically the motivation for being here today is the fact that in a global attempt for decarbonization, we are looking into the maritime sector, and well, in the EU region, the shipping industry is responsible for 13% of the total carbon dioxide emissions of the transport sector, while 60% of that comes from international shipping. And what we identify as the main bottlenecks for reducing emissions in maritime are first, high prices. I'm saying here high price of alternative fuels compared to fossils, but also high prices of the power conversion units. Also, the limited availability of low carbon fuels. And this is a kind of a chicken and egg problem, I would say, because as long as demand is not created, the price, the production capacity will remain low and the prices will apparently remain high. So this is also a limiting factor. And finally, the low technical maturity of marine power conversion solutions. So basically, right now, most vessels use fossils, but efficient technologies that can use low carbon fuels are not as advanced technologically. So just to give you a very quick overview of the status right now and the state of the art, let's say. Basically today, the vast majority of vessels use either oil, MGO, heavy fuel oil, or LNG. These are fuels that we could say are abundant and very accessible in terms of availability and price. And with technology such as internal combustion engines, or in some cases turbines that are well established in the market and heavily tested. But the issue here is that these types of fuels produce emissions. So if we want to reduce emissions, we can for sure go to efficiency improvement solutions. But we're going to be talking about the potential of zero emissions vessels, then we should look for alternative low carbon fuels and power sources. So there are obviously many options. We have biofuels, which are biological source. We have synthetic fuels that are produced by renewable electricity, ammonia, hydrogen batteries, and we could argue that nuclear can also contribute in decarbonization. And the truth is that there is no one size fits all solution. So probably all of these green fuels will be used to a bigger or a lower extent in maritime. And whether a power source is suitable has a lot to do with the power consumption of the vessel, the distance that vessels have to cross, and the consumption profiles of the vessels. So we will most probably see all of those fuels used in different applications. I will not emphasize too much drawbacks and benefits of each fuel. No solution is perfect, but today I would like to focus mostly on ammonia and the potential of ammonia as a fuel for maritime. So moving on, why low carbon ammonia as a fuel? Why do we consider it as a prominent energy carrier for maritime? First of all, energy density. Ammonia has an energy density that is lower than fossil fuels, but it's significantly higher than both batteries and compressed hydrogen. So this makes it a very prominent hydrogen carrier or energy carrier for vessels. In addition, it can produce near zero onboard emissions through its combustion because it basically releases zero carbon dioxide or methane. And on top of that, it already has an established supply chain. Ammonia as a fuel is not a very famous choice, let's say, but ammonia has been used for more than 100 years for the fertilizer production. So there is already infrastructure is available for the production, transport, and storage of ammonia. And the technical difficulties of handling ammonia are already very well understood. And as of today, there are more than 150 terminals in ports worldwide that can handle ammonia. So the infrastructure is partially, but it's already there and well understood. But of course, ammonia as a fuel is still, its adoption is still very limited. And this is linked to some of the challenges in using ammonia as a fuel. And I would split these challenges into two main categories: economic challenges and technical challenges. So going to the financial viability of such solutions, today the cost of low carbon ammonia is 2 to 3 times higher than that of MGO. And in order to reduce the cost of low carbon ammonia, we would need to scale the production, which is something that will take time, and we will need to find ways to scale the demand for ammonia if we want to see a wider adoption. In addition, power generation systems such as internal combustion engines that can use ammonia are already coming to market, I would say, especially two-stroke engines. The first commercial model has already been deployed in a vessel this year. We will be expecting to see how this goes. But still, as a newcomer in the market, ammonia combustion engines and any other technology are more expensive than traditional fossil-powered engines. So one part, we have the high cost And then we also have technical challenges. So as I said, for example, there is infrastructure capable of handling ammonia, but this has mostly been focusing on transporting ammonia as a first source as a material for fertilizers. But when we're talking about using it as a fuel, refueling vessels, transporting it, the technology is understood, but not yet widely deployed. And of course, ammonia is a highly toxic material. Even in very low concentrations in the atmosphere, it can even lead to death. So again, we know how to handle it, but a common framework to ensure safety and risk prevention when it comes to using it as a fuel is yet to be deployed. So with this, we see this as the main limitations for scaling the adoption of ammonia as a fuel. So how can we actually accelerate its adoption? The answer is probably financial incentives. And okay, previous speakers have already analyzed the situation when it comes to carbon penalties. I would just like to very quickly say that in the EU area, we have two main frameworks. We have the ETS, which basically imposes a price for onboard emissions. And we have the Fuel EU Maritime framework, which does not only account for onboard emissions, but for the whole life cycle emissions of the fuel, which means that, for example, if a vessel uses gray ammonia, it will not have to pay carbon penalties based on the ETS framework because there are no emissions on board, but it will have to pay emissions for the Fuel EU Maritime. So these penalties are expected to increase as time passes and incentivize the use of low carbon fuels. And a quick mention on IMO's net zero framework. This has not been voted yet, as Nicole said earlier, but we expect it to be voted at the end of this year. And if it is actually applied, this will be the first global framework for international shipping for carbon penalties. So we expect this to be an extra incentive and extra push towards low carbon fuels. And moving on to how we see the path towards zero emissions maritime. Today, the incumbent solution is internal combustion engines. We see the first step, internal combustion engines, either 2-stroke or 4-stroke, which will be using ammonia. And the solutions that are currently being developed, or the first commercial models, use pilot fuel to support the ammonia combustion. Basically, ammonia is very hard to combust, especially in internal combustion engines. So they use fossil fuels to complement and support the combustion. These engines also have some issues with ammonia slip, and they have lower efficiencies in lower operating loads. So we don't see them as the final solution for decarbonization. And instead, what we propose is a cracking ammonia, so converting ammonia into high purity hydrogen and feeding it into fuel cells, or using this hydrogen to replace the pilot fossil fuel internal combustion engines in order to optimize the performance of the onboard power system and to be able to achieve zero emission operation. And this basically brings us to the APOLO project. So the APOLO project basically seeks to propose new concepts for zero emission ammonia to power for maritime. It's a very strong consortium of technical partners with high expertise in their sector, and that it will basically develop and test two novel ammonia to power solutions for vessels. One of them will be first of a kind ammonia cracker, which will produce high purity hydrogen, fuel cell grade, and then feed this hydrogen into fuel cell to produce electricity. The second concept is partial cracking of ammonia into hydrogen in order to feed a mixture of hydrogen and ammonia into a novel 4-stroke internal combustion engine which will be basically using a mixture. So therefore, two concepts, zero emissions. The objectives are for those two systems, which will be of 120 kilowatt electric each, to reach a final TRL of 5, to demonstrate a levelized cost of hydrogen reduction of up to 22%, and to demonstrate that these systems can be used as building blocks for vessels to achieve power generation of up to 3 MW. And in parallel, to identify operational risks and amend the EU and the IMO's ammonia fuel safety regulations. while still integrating full value chain stakeholders. So I would like to show a little bit more about the technical advances that we foresee in this project. So starting with Fertiberia, Fertiberia will provide low carbon ammonia for the green ammonia for the testing. Yes.
Sorry. I've already explained APOLO project in my welcome slide, so you can skip it if you want to.
Okay. Then moving forward, basically, just very quickly on the market opportunity. I don't know if you have already emphasized
No,
on
I
that.
haven't explained the key, like the resource of it. Just what the project is what I've explained. So.
Okay, good. Okay, apologies for the repetition. Then I missed the first minutes of the discussion. Sorry for that. Yeah, so what we did through this project is try to identify what are the different operational characteristics and the different requirements of different kinds of vessels, and to see which would be the most prominent to use ammonia to power solution. Because as I said, ammonia is not going to be used for all kinds of vessels. So based on our analysis, the most prominent early adopters of ammonia to power solutions would be vessels with up to 3 MW of auxiliary loads, vessels that do short to mid-sea routes, which are basically the vessels that would most probably use four-stroke engines, and ammonia carriers and ammonia bunkering vessels. So vessels that already use ammonia, so the staff is already trained and the safety facilities, the safety framework is already there. So we have identified that this most prominent market is more than 35,000 vessels that can fit these categories. And we foresee that as a next step, we could also deploy these technologies to also larger vessels, such as bulk carriers, container vessels, and oil tankers. This will most probably also integrate two-stroke engines, which are very efficient, but we can also see potential applications of the technology of APOLO in these vessels once the power production capacity can be achieved. So having said that, where we are today with I don't know if you have already commented on that.
Yep.
Okay. Perfect. So, okay, just a few final remarks then about the company, who is H2Site and its role, its activities on maritime decarbonization. So we are a relatively new company, founded in 2019. We are providing industrial equipment and our core technology is the membrane reactors, the palladium membrane reactors. We are more than 60 people. We heavily invest in R&D with 35% of our employees being PhDs, and we have already executed more than 20 hydrogen-related projects with more than 25,000 hours of operation of our membranes. So we'll not go into the product. Basically, what we do is that we integrate many of our membranes, depending on the application, into reactors, and then these reactors in turnkey containerized systems. And we have a distinct business line focused on maritime applications, so we adapt the design based on the requirements of onboard operations. What we have achieved so far is we have already deployed a small-scale prototype of our solution, ammonia cracking coupled with fuel cell. We have tested our crackers for 7 months, and we have accumulated more than 6,000 hours of production of hydrogen from ammonia. And our goal is to be able to deliver an integrated cracking plus fuel cell system of up to 5 MW by 2028, 2029. We already have approval in principle by Lloyd's Register, and we have already launched the projects that will give us the type approval for our onboard systems. So just to conclude, what we see is the 3 steps forward. First, we need to find early adopters of the technology and partners to fully develop integrated ammonia cracking solutions. Then these collaborations will focus on deploying commercial scale pilots because we need to show that the technology works, and we need to find ship owners that are willing to test this technology. And finally, the full product definition. So have a complete data set and validate operation in order to kickstart the commercial adoption of our maritime solutions and scale it in multiple vessel categories. And basically that's it. from our side. Thank you very much for your time, and I'm here to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Marcos. I'm sorry for interrupting but I thought like it would be.
No worries, of course.
Did not explain the project again twice. Do we have any questions from here? Yes, we have a question from the audience.
Well, one of the previous slides said like that the more pure the hydrogen is, the more extended the lifetime of fuel cell, if I saw it correctly.
Yes, basically, especially proton exchange membrane fuel cells, they will not be able to operate with ammonia at all. So they have marginally zero tolerance. The ISO grade specifies the tolerance in ammonia to ppm levels. So that's why we need the purification membranes at the end of the cracking. There have been technology proposed to use to avoid the purification step, but they have not been able to couple them with fuel cells right now.
Yeah, great. Clear, thank you.
Any questions online? Okay, Marcos, you also won't be presenting in the roundtable, I suppose, or would you be?
I have another half an hour, so I will be by a quarter to 5 here. Hopefully, I will be able to answer some questions, but
okay,
I'm not sure.
So we move on to the next speaker. Yes, we have a question, but we move on to the next speaker right now. That's Harsha from Blue Expert, presenting GREENMARINE project. And this talk will be based on the potential of retrofitting decarbonization technologies on board a marine vessel. Okay, Harsha, thank you.
Thank you, Angela. Can you hear me? Can everyone hear me well?
Yes.
Yes, okay. I'm not sure if I have to share the slides or the organizer can do that.
If you can share the slides, that's
Okay.
easier for you. I mean, if you are having some issues,
yeah, I can do that. I have it on my end. Yeah, one moment. Can everyone see my slides?
Yes.
Yeah. So then I'll propose I start. Thank you, Angela, and the organizers for this opportunity to present the GREENMARINE project. So my name is Harsha Mysore. I'm innovation consultant and the project manager at Blue Expert. So today I will be presenting the parts of the GREENMARINE project, explaining a bit about the CO2 capture technologies, the retrofitting potential on board a marine vessel. So before I go into the details of the project, I would like to explain a bit shortly what is Blue Expert, what we're doing there, and then I will delve into the retrofitting aspect of the CO2 capture technologies, then go into how this GREENMARINE project developed and what we did within the GREENMARINE project, which is still ongoing, and then what is the outlook and questions and discussions. So first of all, about Blue Expert. So we are an R&D consultancy based in the Netherlands. We are specialized in innovation funding, proposal preparation, execution, and assessments. So our mission is to realize innovations, help SMEs or innovative companies, universities realize their innovations. So these are some of our key activities, as you can see here. We have a wide network in the energy transition, sustainability ecosystem of the innovation funding, around 120 paying customers. Presently, we are doing 5 EU projects. We are a small company, around 6 to 8 employees. And we have, in the past 8 years, raised around 350 million euros for our clients, of which 250 million was for one large-scale project. There's an innovation fund, just to put it in a perspective. And we are looking forward for future projects in 2026. This is our team. This is the core team. So I'm Harsha Mysore. A bit about myself. So I'm an innovation consultant, project manager. I'm working on various energy transition and circularity projects, both at the pre-stage and the post-stage of these projects. My other colleagues are also having expertise in this field. For example, Ludwin, who's an innovation consultant and the director of the founder of the company, has an industrial consultancy background and a scientific background with Chilia. Then we have also colleagues who bring in aspects of sustainability, marketing, and digital too. So this is a bit about Blue Expert, what we do and what is the team. So I will just now dwell into the onboard CO2 capture. So the first question is, why do we even want to do this? If you can see here, the points which I listed out here is, first of all, it's the regulatory pressure, like most of the speakers talked about this. It's about this net zero greenhouse gas emissions. To abate this, we need to have a solution. So then what about CO2 capture when we have other solutions? So one thing is that CO2 capture allows you for transitionary technology without waiting for the alternative solutions to come to its maturity and availability. It's like a bridge technology, so that when you're going to this transition from now on to 2050, you're able to already reach a certain reduction in the emissions and meet the regulations. Also, from the literature, you can see these technologies, if you're able to retrofit, the scalability is quite high, at least from the literature. So these are some of the things why you need to retrofit. But however, having said that, there are quite challenges when you have to go to this kind of aspects. One is obviously the capital expenditure, because if you need to bring on the CO2 capture on a board, it has a lot of expense, because you need to have the CO2 storage tank, you need to integrate the systems into the board. It's engineering cost. Then there is also the aspect of carbon tax, which is heavy. So this process is highly dependent on this. So the way it's going to evolve will have an impact on the business models. And obviously, the operating expenditure is also very important. But having said those things, but there are also other aspects in the retrofit. I think some of the speakers already touched upon this, is about the space availability, which really matters, because the ships, they prioritize the cargo and the safety aspects on board. The weight is one more, weight and stability is one more factor. Then there is energy penalty, and which I already also spoke about, is the system integration, where you really need to think about how it can be integrated, and that's where the retrofitting aspects also come into the picture. Yes, there's one more aspect as well when you want to consider the retrofitting. It depends, highly dependent on the type of ship. As you can see here, I just put down the five classes of marine vessels, which are normally categorized. So starting from container ships, LNG carriers, passenger ships, bulk carriers, etc. In the scope of the Green Marine project, we are much more focused on the passenger ships. So I will go to that, how we came to this project, and how we develop this project further. So yeah, directly now skipping into the scope of the project. So that was the background that we needed to go to this transition technology to counter the regulatory pressures and kind of go towards this energy transition. So what we came up with in this EU-funded project is that we want to accelerate the carbon neutrality of this waterborne transport by retrofitting the existing fleets with the emission control solutions. That is the main objective. And there are some sub-objectives, as you can see here. It is about, for example, retrofitting protocols together with a software tool catalog, and demonstrate the carbon capture technology, energy-saving technologies, and fuel consumption reduction technologies. In the end, our aim is to test this technologies on a land-based engines, and then based on the compliance requirements and everything else, we could go to a demonstration on a waterborne vessel. To do this, to go towards the realization of this objective, we came up with a consortium of 10 partners from 7 countries, consists of 6 innovative SMEs, 3 research institutes, and a major ferry operator. This project is coordinated by the Cyprus Maritime Institute. Yes, so coming to now what was done in the project. So the first thing was really important for us was to make the integration and the retrofitting strategies. So at the site of the coordinator, that's the CMMI. So we optimized the genset where we integrated initially the 7 sensors onto the genset, so that we are able to understand how the engine is behaving and what's its impact to the downstream technology. So you can see there are around 7 sensors, which include airflow meter, fuel flow meter, pressure sensors, thermal cameras, temperature, and gas analyzers. And all these sensors were connected to the in-house developed IoT systems for real-time data recording and monitoring. On top of that, there was this new thing which was developed in this project. It is called the bypass system, where it is a system where you can control the amount of gas from the exhaust going into the downstream processes technologies, if I can say. For example, the carbon capture. So you're able to control the flow. So this is electrically actuated bypass valve, which has been also been connected to the IoT system. So the operator can easily redirect the amount of flow to the downstream. So this is a video of the how it is operating, but yeah, I will skip that one. So much. Sorry. Yes. Yeah, so this is in this slide, what you see is the actual site, the relevant conditions and the port of Limassol, where this genset has been placed and been optimized and connected to the IoT systems. And you can see the exhaust systems and also the integration of the bypass, electrically bypass valve. In addition to that, what you can see, what was developed within this project, at least the end of the retrofitting and integration challenges, strategies was the IoT platform, where you can see the real data records where you can monitor it. In addition, there was also emergency valve, which was which was integrated into the system in compliance with the LR recommendations. Okay, so this was about the first aspect of my presentation in respect to the Green Marine project. Now I want to touch upon the CO2 capture technologies which were developed and tested in this Green Marine project. So before I go to those details, just a brief overview. So this project is about, so we have typically in the literature 3 kinds of CO2 removal technologies, that is the chemical absorption, cryogenic separation, and membrane separation. As the other speakers also touched upon, chemical absorption is mainly based upon amine solvents, which is having a chemical reaction to capture this CO2. And whereas the cryogenic separation is more about cooling down the gases and liquefying the CO2 content. And the membrane separation is more about filtering the CO2 away from the bulk gas. Each of these technologies have a kind of advantage and limitations. And we try to address the limitations within the project. And I will show you some of the results, how it went through it. I hope everyone can hear me. And yes, okay, thank you. So this is the first technology I want to show you what was the progress made and what were the results. So we basically started to work on a CO2 and water capture membrane, starting from TRL4, and the aim was to go to TRL8. So here, what I mean by TRL8 is when we are on board a ship. So we started with the process design, and then you can see the concept of a pilot design, which was developed by 3D modeling, and then the actual construction which has taken place of this whole pilot unit. And then we are also able to go to a land-based testing at the port of Limassol, where we integrated the system with the engine to actually measure how much CO2 was separated from this. So in this slide, you see some of the details of this unit. So it can handle a flow of 150 meter cube per hour. And it also has a system which can be used to cool down the flue gas from 400 degrees up to 20 degrees centigrade. Coming to the membrane aspect into the pilot scale. So the membrane was developed in laboratory and optimized with a factor of 400. So from a 20 centimeter square membrane area up to 2 meter square membrane pilot area scale. The other aspect of this unit is that it can be remotely controlled. So during the project, during the land-based testings, we were able to control the system from Norway, and the system was tested in Cyprus. So, and according to the developers, this is most likely the first in the world, this kind of a system. Here, what you can see in this slide is a bit of the commissioning, building and the commissioning of the membrane pilot. So you can see how the membrane was developed from going from a small to upscale the membrane area. And these are all the construction steps, which is you can see in these photos, and the way and how this whole system was transported from Norway to Cyprus. So the initial testing and the commissioning was done at the tiller facilities in Trondheim and Norway. And these are also some pictures of the actual testing which took place. The important point to note here is that with this operation, with the operating conditions, we were able to go to a membrane, the CO2 enrichment at the premier site up to 19%. And this is very close to the theoretical percentage of 21%. So that was the achievement done for this system. Coming to the next technology, which was also tested in this project related to carbon capture, is the Capcon technology developed by the company Carbon Capture Machine. So this technology is based on a combination of a diluted aqueous alkali solution and a brine, which basically in a combination is able to scrub off the CO2 from the flue gas and also produce purified brine and carbonates. So this is the core of the technology. So we were able to also test this technology at the port of Limassol. So I'll show you some developments there. So this slide is just showing you the floor plan at the port of Limassol, where all this were integrated. It's not so important at this stage. We go to this picture where you can see the integration, and you can see in the third picture on the right side, the actual unit, the carbon capture machine. It's like a column reactor, which is developed, and we think this is a TRL 6 based on our understanding. And these are some of the results. So you can see during the demonstration, the land-based setting, we were able to capture 90% of the CO2 was removed, and it's quite a long testing period. And we are able to also form a carbonate product, which can be used within the scope of the project, at least for the ocean alkalinity enhancement. And the other applications are the cement and the paper industries. So these were some of the results from the project. The project is still ongoing. We have to take care of some aspects, and those include, for example, finalizing the software catalog tool. The tool is a tool which basically contains the catalog of suitable solutions for a wide variety of ships and types and different scenarios. We would like to also finalize the land-based testing to identify the gaps and in line with the compliance requirements, that is LR and the flag requirements. Finalize the retrofitting protocol and validate that protocol with the techno-economic models, and also comply with the Lloyd's registered NMC regulations to obtain the approval in principle before we go on the onboard demonstrations. From a other perspective, like what is required for this technologies to be realized is that there has to be infrastructure development. So the port has to be developed so that it can receive the CO2, so that it can be stored or it can be utilized. Another aspect we believe is important is the alignment with the regulatory bodies, for example, DNV, Lloyd's Register. So there has to be some kind of an alignment on these so that it helps us to certify these kind of systems, and the uptake is much faster. That's it from my end. If you would like to have some discussions, you can always contact me. And if you have some questions right now, I'm open to answer them. You can always contact me. Here is my details, and you can always welcome to follow the developments of the project here. Yes, thank you very much.
Yes, I actually have a question regarding the membrane testing on the engine.
Yes.
So the membrane, you always need a pressure differential or a partial pressure differential. I might have missed it, but under what pressure conditions did you actually conduct this experiment?
Yes, that's a good question. But I'm not privy to those details, but I can connect you to the right person who's the developer of this technology. Maybe they can give you more details. Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Also want to ask a question, because you have a purity of 19% starting from 2 to 3%.
Yeah. Yes.
So I was just wondering, what are the pressure conditions like, and is it CO2 from water? Because I hear that it's a water separation membrane. Oh, so is it water selective or is it CO2 selective? So
Yes, that's a good question. Thank you for that one, Angela. So what we try to do in this project as well, because the flue gas also contains a lot of water in it, we try to optimize the membrane in such a way that it can also capture the water, and also the water is something which helps the membrane to remove the CO2. So it is because it has to maintain a certain moisture. So there is some technicality behind it. So that's why we framed it as also CO2 and water capture membrane.
because usually when we talk about CO2 capture, we usually single CO2 from the air, like CO2, like post-combustion or CO2 into. So
Mhm.
that's a lot of challenges, especially for the membranes. And but when I heard like CO2 water, okay,
Mm.
okay, that so curious. Anyway, I will be in contact with membrane developers. I don't know who.
Yes. Yes, I can provide you the contacts. It's also on the first slide. You can contact the members from SINTEF. They are specialists in these kind of things. Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, we have half an hour, so we are on time, almost on time for roundtable discussion. So all the speakers are here except for Cesar. So I will kickstart the roundtable discussion. So what's the final word? Alternate fuels, yes or no? I mean, is it worth investing? Because you can see, of course, you have the technical challenges and you have the economic challenges on it. How can we as researchers contribute to this, contribute to the stakeholders? Like, what can we do more in, developing new technologies for alternate fuels? I mean, it's a very broad question.
Yeah.
So, because
Easy. No, I think what we can do is to really just provide information to actually give I don't know, policymakers or also investors some let's say some information that they can use for the decision making. But I think it's not so easy to actually say like, okay, this is the right direction to go.
Carsten, what do you think? As a direct user for these technologies, what do you think we should focus on? Like, is it reducing cost or developing new technologies?
Yeah, I think everything is on the right way, and I don't know if we from the sustainable shipping scene are the right persons to upscale this. My experience or our experience here in the port area is that we need front runners. For example, the synthetic fuels like GTL, which has nothing to do with zero emission or with greenhouse gas reduction, but it was available a few years ago as an alternative to diesel, and nobody from the smaller shipping companies here in the port area used it actually. And we as a public company said, together with Shell, who contributed it this time, okay, we tested out. At first it was one of our ships, then 4, 20, and now up to 100%. All of our 45 ships are running with GTL. And a lot of other players here in the port area do the same now. There's about, I think, 150 port ships which use GTL because they have seen it works in reality. And I think this is the way. Of course, it's really difficult. It's not applicable for the global shipping industry. But I think we need players from states or maybe EU-funded players who run as front runners.
I think, yeah, the funding is always the issue here, because most of these big operators are not very ready to invest in new technologies. So we need, I mean, and especially if you're thinking about EU funding, it's highly competitive. So getting one project accepted from 1,000 projects for new technologies is really difficult. So yes, I think we should have like a co-funding projects where, the ports and the other stakeholders can actively invest in new technology, in developing new technologies. So that's one way to go. Do we have any other comments from Harsha, Marcos, and even?
I would like to mention another point, if I may. from our view as a company, we think the biggest problem is the legislation. Where the technical solutions are there. I think the business case should fly in any way, maybe with funding, but I think this there would be solutions, but which is very difficult for us is the legislation of the ships. And it's so difficult, as I said in my presentation, it's rocket science, but it's more rocket science in the sense of legislation, not in technical problems.
Yes, like the IMO regulations, they have been trying, I mean, they've been postponing it. So it's also difficult for us, like onboard use of ammonia. It is definitely needs a lot more push from the stakeholders to go in this alternate fuel technologies. Yes, Harsha, you have a comment?
Yes, thank you, Angela. Yeah, I just wanted to comment on also maybe what Nicole said. There's no one solution to this aspect. I think it really depends on the regional aspects, the regional stakeholders, what they want. If I can at least give you a perspective from the Netherlands, it's quite evident that the Netherlands policies towards, for example, hydrogen and ammonia type of infrastructure development at the ports to facilitate these kind of transition in the maritime. We can also see this because there's quite a lot of pressure on the use of fertilizers for farmers in the Netherlands. So maybe this transition is happening at least in the Netherlands in there with the ammonia, I think. But we cannot use extrapolate this one to whole of Europe because it depends on the local conditions there. And I think all the technologies has to be pushed, and wherever it fits, maybe at that region, there will be stakeholders to take it up. Yeah, that's what I think. Thank you.
Thank you, Harsha. Very valid point. Ajoy, anything comment?
Yeah, it's a tough question to give you a very clear answer, but at least from a purely technical perspective, I would say we should still work on what we are working. It is competitive, but we should give it our best, see where it goes. What we would really benefit is actually interacting with the stakeholders directly, because we as researchers, we are defined to a certain thing that we are usually interested in, and that becomes our baby, like we want to work on that. But maybe that's not the solution what the industry is really looking for. So there is this interaction that's missing, at least in the research community, at least from my perspective. I think we have to improve on that, and we also have to be a little bit more adaptable to that, because like I said, we have our own interests and then we are stuck with that interest. So there's a give and take, and that's something that we can control from our sides as researchers. The other things we don't have control on, so I don't think we have much say in that.
It's true, because from EU perspective, like they are like announcing a lot of proposal calls for high TRL level solutions, which is lucrative for the stakeholders. But they are also asking for very low TRLs, like to start from very low TRL. To complete that in 4 years is next to impossible. Like, I mean, I recently had a one-on-one with an EU official, and I actually addressed it where they wanted to introduce artificial intelligence in developing this technology. And they want to go to, and this was an EA. EA is TRL 7 to 9. So artificial intelligence is developed already, but in making new technologies, example for membranes, to develop those kind of, like the data, to have that much amount of data to develop an artificial intelligence model, you need to have at least 4 to 5 years of pure low TRL research. And with that low TRL research, you can get into TRL 3. And after that, in TRL 3, you have another 4 years to reach to TRL 5 or 6. And then you go forward and take it to TRL 9. So if you think, give or take 8 to 10 years. So this is, I mean, and the stakeholders need it now, need the technologies now. So how can we accelerate this development? It's a very challenging question. And also, obviously, this artificial intelligence, ML-based technologies are really beneficial, but we also need to understand, like, have some communication between what we really want from the stakeholders' perspective and what can be achieved in a realistic timeline for a research. So that's just one topic. It was a general topic, but I'm saying that it applies to here as well for an alternate fuel technology. Marcos, do you have any comments on this?
Well, actually, my perspective is more of a business/product perspective because I'm in a slightly different field. But the thing is that, as you said, I think that what we see trying to deploy a technology that is trying to transition from TRL 6.7 to 9, this is a huge jump that we're trying to do because no one is willing, especially in these levels, in commercial level, no one is willing to invest money in something that is not proven.
Mhm.
This is why we're in parallel looking for funding to transition to TRL 7, 8, and to deploy demonstration units that simulate real operating scenarios and make sense. Let's put it that way. And this is also why one of the main reasons why we participate in the APOLO project, because we wanted to show a system that can be coupled with an energy generation solution, that it can be deployed on a vessel. So transitioning TRLs is very challenging and time consuming. But at the end of the day, people who are going to pay, and we're talking about the private sector, you need to show a clear economic value that surpasses the risk.
Exactly.
Which is super challenging. So in terms of R&D, my feedback is limited, let's say. But for me, the main goal and the main priority is to find a way to develop a value proposition that counters, that makes the risk make sense.
Yes.
And try to understand what are the priorities of the action organizations that are going to use these solutions, because at the end of the day, it's all about profit, whether we like it or not. And we're talking about decarbonization, but if there is no legislation, if there is no subsidies, no one is going to pay 3 times more to deploy an ammonia-powered solution when the competition doesn't. And it's a market-driven solution decision.
So we mentioned, or you mentioned that this communication between stakeholders should be established. And I was just wondering, what do we consider as stakeholders? Who are these? Are these meant the end user more? Because I mean, we are the let's say the 80% of stakeholders are we here, right? We are the technology providers, so the research institutions, and so on. So, and I think Marcus is addressing that the end user, right? So, those who have to invest or would have to invest, and then they are facing a risk because I mean they need to invest in something that they have to live with at least 20 years.
Yes, I think the urgency of the situation is not evident yet.
No, but on the other hand, Ajay, you showed this the timeline of these two engine manufacturers, right? So, I mean, there are already ammonia engines actually developed so far, and there are some orders already. So it means, and they are I would say, a big players like Maersk, for example. They on their initiative they started actually this methanol ecosystem. So it is. I mean, it's
happening, but How,
But they have to be strong players with their own finances, or at least basis for that. And here we are talking to the wider, let's say, wider end users, right? I mean, just taking inland waterways, for example. These are small ship owners who cannot afford, and they are waiting for technologies. And then when we are talking, what are asking them, what do they expect? They said, I would like to have a solution that I do not have to invest a lot in, right? Dropping fuels, right? So you mentioned this Shell GTL. So this is not really an alternative fuel, right? This is more a dropping fuel.
100% drop-in.
Yeah, so yeah. And when we are talking even with the carbon capture, it's an investment, right? You can use the conventional fuels, but you have to invest, right?
yes. This communication is what we need to improve. Of course, European projects help to bring your researchers into this field where we can, actually have conversations with the shipbuilders and see their ship design. Like for APOLO project, we are doing that. We are having a ship design, and we are trying to see where we can actually put our concept, our technology. We are not going to do it in this project, but we would like to take it to a tier 9 type project. So this is what we are trying to do, but still we have a lot of limitations. Like in case of funding, we have a lot of limitations. So, and to prove that, the stakeholders are interested, I think there should be more funding opportunities than just having a public funding opportunity.
So, sorry, I think that I would say that we in Europe have more a problem because it's a lack of resources, either financial or even human resources, right? So when we're talking, they are expecting that we have this jump from TRL 6 to 9, but you have to have first so many TRL 3, without selecting it already there, and then maybe having a risk that this will not work, right? And I think that at least in Asia, they have this advantage that they have more resources. I don't know how they are financed, but they are running parallelly different, let's say, potential solutions, and then they are not selecting at the beginning, but first at the end, right? Or at the end, somewhere away along the way.
So yes, as I said, that there should be a lot of TRL 3 projects to be funded, so that you can go and scale up the whole technical. And also, it's a good idea to have the stakeholders right in the beginning of the development in the TRL, like we are saying TRL 3 development. Have a stakeholder present here and saying that, okay, this is a good start, but this, the end goal, the TRL 9 goal is here, and we should be moving in that direction, and just to pave the way, not to actively interact on participate in the project, but having an advisory kind of role is what we can think of having. Okay, so after a very deep conversation, I have a question for you, Carsten. How climate conscious are your clients? You were saying that you have APOLO and your the fire brigade. Like, how active are they? How actively are they asking for a decarbonization?
Oh, it's a very good question. I think this changed in the last years. Now you have to say that our model with the unique lead management was mandatory for them. So they were forced to be our customers because it was a decision of the city, and the reason was to finance the firefighting, as I think I mentioned it before. And so some of them had sorrows if the model actually works, and now there's a high consciousness all of them love the model because they don't have to care about ships, about tendering, about funding, and so on. For example, the EU tendering system is so complicated. You need the specialists and the guys from police and the fire department. They don't have the capacities for this. This is for the whole model of the unique fleet management. And it's similar with the green fleet development. For example, police and firefighting, there were no friends of innovative propulsion. They wanted the diesel engine, best of 1980, which works. And this is what they wanted, and they didn't care about environment. But now it's changed, even I think so in the last 3 to 5 years. And we and most of our customers are part of the city of Hamburg, and we all have these zero emission or climate neutral goals. And so the policemen and the firefighters prefer the possibility to get climate neutral for their part of the game, and they like the technical solutions. They like to go with battery electric propulsion and so on. And so I think it's a high commitment at the moment. No problem.
That's good to hear. So, Nicole, I have a question for you. So, you have seen that there was this, I think, Mozilla had already developed an ammonia engine for maritime applications. How different is it from the APOLO engine? Can you say that? Is it better or hopefully better?
Actually, I don't know very much from that engine because I think it was already on their website, I think at the end of 2024, that they said that here we have that in our portfolio. But I think, I don't know, a couple of months ago, I could not actually find any information on let's say anybody ever using that engine already. So I have no information about really the details of the engines and how it's performing. So it's very difficult to say.
It's like, I think it's pure ammonia. We have no idea. It's very.
I think from what I'm, well, I mean, vaguely remember something that I saw at some point. I think it's more a diesel pilot combustion concept.
Okay.
So,
And is it actually available? That's enough. Okay. Is it possible to buy it?
Yes, I think it is because I think at the beginning when they announced like, hey, we have an engine. So I think the information was available on their website, just saying like, hey, we introduced our engine. But introducing really seemed to mean we put it there on the webpage. I don't know. I mean, I didn't call them and ask if I can buy one. I think a couple of months later, they also added some information on some additional information on the website. But I don't know about the. But I mean, as we heard before, WinGD, they are already definitely out with one engine.
About the Wärtsilä, when we visited this testing center, they showed us, they set up a full engine as a demonstrator there, and they claimed that based on this opportunity that they could show the potential customers, they had one customer already, but the ship is still, they are still building the ship, so it's a kind of suppliership or something. So this, they said that this was actually the a good thing that they can show them that they can actually.
Yeah, I think one challenge is really, especially with ammonia, testing large scale, because I know that on our end at the moment we don't have the possibility to actually store enough fuel to run a multi-cylinder engine. And the large, for example, like INEO, I think that they currently don't have any option to run with ammonia at all. We tried different different sites where we asked like, okay, can you actually supply enough ammonia? And that wasn't the case. And I also know that I think WinGD struggled a while until they found a way to have enough ammonia on site to actually operate their engines. I don't know how Wärtsilä did it, but I think that's at the moment one of the bottlenecks to actually go large scale.
Harsha, you have a comment?
Yes, I just wanted to touch upon the funding aspect. So from my experience, what I see is that for at least for the maritime sector, there is not a dedicated funding landscape. For example, EU has moved into, for example, a clean hydrogen partnership funding, a joint undertaking of circular bio-based or clean aviation. Maybe they have to think about this direction where there's a dedicated group on the maritime decarbonization for fundings. So then you're already able to bring in the relevant stakeholders onto the table. Maybe that is something the policymakers at the EU level can think about. And then you already will have kind of a dedicated group, I think. So maybe this is one way to get more funding and more emphasis on the business models. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
So Ajoy, I already asked you my question.
Regarding the leakage. So, like I said, we don't really develop these sensors as per se. So we try to test them. We create an environment where we can compare sensors with each other. So that's our intention. And it gives us a good perspective of how the sensors perform in these kind of conditions. Because there's a lot of parameters that can affect that engine's perform, that sensors performance. And this is what we want to systematically check. And this gives kind of an overall report saying, okay, we have 10 sensors that we've tested, for example, I'm not sure how much they're testing, but then you know which suits well for what kind of conditions. So that's the intention in that particular project, for instance. But ideally, having that kind of an environment to do such kind of measurements is what we are trying to create. Similar is also for the flow sensors, we said.
Yes.
So the flow sensors are available in the market. It's not that they are not available, and we are not designing new sensors, but we are trying to give them the infrastructure that they need to test if the sensors are performing well. So our purpose is like to understand what exactly is their need and to ensure that we have that kind of an infrastructure for testing. So that's our focus. So there's some development from the sensor manufacturer side. They develop the sensors and then they try to come to us and say, okay, can you test the sensor and give me overall uncertainty of how these sensors perform.
So who are the front runners for this, for ammonia? I mean, if you can name anyone.
You mean for the sensors?
Yeah.
I think for the flow sensors, there's Etis and Poison. So they are part of the consortium. They are the unfunded beneficiary. There's one more. Actually, I forgot the name, but I can check later on. But they are also kind of front runners. They have existing sensors that they are already giving to the market. But they would want to kind of double check if what they're doing there and what they're providing on their specs is right. And that's why they come unfunded. They provide their sensors to us, we test it, and we get that.
I'm also like wondering, in the development of these leakage sensors, who are the ones to be contacted? Who are?
To be honest, I'm
You are the one who's
involved in
testing
that
it.
project, but not to that extent. So
Okay.
it's coordinated by my colleague Shishao, so he's the coordinator. And I think they've progressed much at the moment. I think month 9. So there is some level of reporting available in the sense of collecting who the sensor manufacturers are, what sensors are available in the market. But I think they're still analyzing all this information to begin the testing part of it. So I'm not sure. Maybe they know from that work package lead, maybe they have a better idea, or you can wait another 9 months and then you might find a report on our website.
Okay.
That's something, but I think we are trying to do that. We are trying to do it in a stepwise to understand how this could be kind of well understood.
Because I'm just taking just only about ammonia. Like, first of all, the public conception is that it's toxic, obviously. So it's really difficult to disseminate our research and say that ammonia is actually good. It's a clean fuel which can be used for maritime applications. But then how do we sense it? How do we sense the leakage? How do we make it?
It's completely different. So when you are talking about the flow sensors, which is actually, these are not the leak sensors.
Leak sensors,
Right?
yeah,
This is
yeah.
more safety issue. So in this ammonia project, there are two types of sensors. One are the flow sensors, which actually are already available on the market, but they are not have been not particularly developed for the ammonia in general. So that's why now these technologies are actually adapting for the use of ammonia. And part of this project that you've been mentioned is also that, for example, at LEC there will be measured parallelly to the operation on the test bench, right? So that they will be installed parallelly and then compare different methodology or technologies. Yeah. So this is one part, and the second part is, but these are not the leakage sensors. These are not identified. And this second part, which also will be then tested, is the development of new sensors for the components that are not yet regulated. So these are really on a low TRL level, so that there will be also different technologies tested, and also in parallel with the just normal operation at the test bench running with ammonia, and then the data. So because these are all sensors are developed in or tested in the laboratory scale, right? And then just asked to maybe to come close to the real use, and the closest is the test bench, right? It's just still not the full engine, but for these purposes, it's already almost the end user, right? So this will be then.
Yeah, just to think only about the safety point of view, these sensors have to be developed much more faster to have this whole technology, the ammonia cracking technology, for example, to be deployed in a ship, basically.
I mean, the question is, do these sensors already exist?
Yeah, exactly.
Because I mean, it's something, I mean, ammonia is handled already for many years. Okay? So I assume that the technology is available.
Yes. Yeah. So handling ammonia, I think we are quite well aware of, because fertilizer industry has been largely used more. So we are learning a lot from what is already available. So especially for sensors like leakage sensors, I think there should be a lot already available in the market.
Yeah.
The question is whether you can use it for your kind of application. If you're putting it in an engine room, maybe it's going to be really slightly higher temperatures. Yeah. How does the performance of that sensor work in these kind of conditions? Yeah. About humidity, because on the sea, I think it's going to be much more humid too. Are these going to contribute to the performance of the sensors? This has to be clear, because other sensors in stationary conditions and chemical production plants, I think there it's more a controlled environment. Maybe the sensors are designed for such kind of conditions. So now the question is, can we use it in these conditions and check? And that's what we try to do in the project too. We're trying to vary the parameters to see how well they work. So developing the sensors, it's kind of an outcome of this. If none of the sensors work in these conditions, then there is a gap that has to be filled. And the market understands that, and then they start working. And when there's a demand, then definitely the company is going to be heavily involved in developing it very quickly.
Which we have to work on. We need more new EU projects for that.
Can I just add something? Because I checked in between the website from Wärtsilä. Yeah. So they are claiming that they can run up to 95% ammonia energy share. So pretty sure that the last 5% is diesel, and up to 90% greenhouse gas emission reduction, which is probably likely that they're having some N2O emissions. So apparently or I don't know if the after treatment is not really completely eliminating into, but that would be my interpretation of that.
Okay. Yeah, it would be interesting to see, comparing both technologies, what we are developing in Apollo and what the current market has right now. Okay, I think it's time that we exceeded 10 minutes. So thank you everyone for being here, for actively participating in this workshop. I hope it was really useful for everyone who attended here. We can have more discussions on it. You have all our contacts. Please feel free to reach out to each other. If you have any new project concept, feel free to ask us about any support. Thank you all for this nice discussion, and then thank Dr. Hamburg for giving us this amazing room in the heat, but it's still cool. For hosting this workshop. Thank you, Karsten and Anka, who has also helped us in organizing this workshop offline. And thank you all the online participants for actively interacting in this workshop. So we'll see you next time for the next Apollo workshop. Thank you. Have a nice evening.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye bye. Bye.